Chapter 1882. In the Palace of the God Dominion. Shadow's voice was extremely cold as it floated in the clouds. However, the god on the throne didn't dare to show any dissatisfaction. "Understand what you mean." The god nodded slightly. "Is there something special about this native god? Something that can make him ignore the rules of our god system universe? His realm can't be higher than that of a supreme god. Otherwise, he wouldn't be just a native god. If those native heavenly gods were to know that a paramount god had appeared among them, they would have jumped up in anger long ago. There wouldn't be any battle between gods. In the shadow, there was only a cold gaze staring at the god. It was one of the top 10 gods of the Emperor God system. Those who were ranked in the top 10 were naturally extraordinary. The Emperor God system was slightly special in the God system universe. They worshipped a unique and domineering belief style, whether it was the clan tribes they subdued or the worlds and realms they conquered. Most of them had this kind of belief. Of course, because of the existence of the God seal, unless the god died, these clan tribes wouldn't produce any other belief. In the God system universe, there were countless God systems. However, in reality, there were only 5 types. All God systems were derived from these 5 types. They were divided into different factions according to their different power sources, and the universes were controlled by the supreme gods. Tianshun is a god directly related to the Emperor God system. The shadow glanced at the god. The god's voice and face were covered, so the latter couldn't detect it at all. "I wonder if he can test out that guy's strength," the shadow muttered. At this moment, the god seemed to have sensed something and said, "Could it be that you're suspecting me right now?" "So what if I am?" The shadow said indifferently. "Then you're underestimating me too much." Tianshun sighed slightly. "However, to be underestimated by you like this, it's good. It's a good thing. After all, this will bring you a bigger surprise later. I'm very happy to bring surprises to all living beings." Tianshun had a calm and composed smile on his face. "So, you asked that human girl to deal with him just now because of this hobby of yours?" The shadow sneered. "Of course." Su Fan took a deep breath and stared at the palace in front of him. In a trance, a figure could be seen flying across the sky from afar. He suddenly stopped in his tracks. It was already extremely difficult for him to move forward, and when he stopped, he felt an overwhelming pressure sweep over him. It made it hard for him to breathe. However, when he stopped, that figure made his breathing speed up a bit. "Master," Su Fan muttered. In the blink of an eye, that beam of light had already arrived in front of Su Fan. It was his master whom he had missed for a long time. She was his guide in his previous life, as well as his lover. Su Fan was wild with joy. He kept muttering, "Master, you're really here?" "No. Why do you seem?" The smile on his face had yet to fully bloom. It was as if time had frozen. That was because he didn't see any warmth or emotion in his master's eyes. There was only a calm and indifferent look in his eyes. Terrifying, extremely terrifying. It was an emotionless gaze that caused her entire body to emit a divine radiance. Su Fan felt as if he was struck by lightning. 2 words appeared in his mind: clan tribe. Shizuen had already become that god's minion. Otherwise, it was impossible for her to look at him with such a gaze. In fact, he was even able to see ice-cold, killing intent from those eyes. The next moment, Su Fan's master slightly stretched out her finger, as if she was using her finger as a sword, and flicked her finger. In an instant, a bright light seemed to pierce through the sky and the clouds, heading straight for Su Fan's heart. She didn't even say a word. Su Fan's heart was like dead ashes. Even if he had a tiny bit of hope, he couldn't help but come here. However, it was still too late. Su Fan recalled everything in his mind. He closed his eyes, not waiting for death, because he knew that he wouldn't die. However, that bright finger light, which seemed to be able to destroy a planet, touched Su Fan's body the moment it touched him. Su Fan's body suddenly erupted with a violent light. Boom! When the two collided, the finger light column turned into nothingness, and the violent light that covered Su Fan's body also disappeared and shattered. Su Fan saw it. A hint of surprise appeared in his master's eyes. That frowning eyebrows were still so familiar. But it was only because she didn't kill him with one blow. How ridiculous. He was silent. The strength of these gods had already reached such a level. He could clearly feel that his master's strength now was stronger than in his previous life. However, when he thought about the strength of the ancestor gods, Su Fan felt relieved. Su Fan looked at his master and stretched out his hand as if he wanted to grab something. But he just sighed, and the latter didn't move again, until a gigantic life form the size of a mountain suddenly appeared in the void. I was just bestowed with divine power by her eminence and became a spiritual supremacy. But now, I can't even kill a human who is as weak as an ant. A loud voice slowly sounded. If you didn't have this body and the power of destiny, it would be a waste of her eminence's divine power. You're too weak, or maybe you're too soft. I remember that back then. I personally slapped a weak human like you into pieces. I didn't expect you to still be alive. Su Fan straightened his body and looked at this guy, a descendant of the gods. He remembered it very clearly. Back then, he was killed by this guy with one blow. He couldn't tell what kind of beast this guy was. Its body was so huge that it was like a straight mountain peak. But its head was like that of a dragon. There didn't seem to be anything special about it. But Su Fan knew that this guy was terrifyingly strong. Most importantly, this beast was really ruthless and didn't talk much. At this moment, just as he finished speaking, with a leap, its gigantic body seemed to cover the entire sky of the deity domain. On its head, there was a hideous smile. Since I didn't slap you into pieces last time, I don't believe that you can leave the divine realm alive under my nose this time. Die. The terrifying giant palm was like a mountain country that came crashing down from the sky. Su Fan stood still on the spot. He looked at the scene calmly. The mountainous palm that was like a country came crashing down with an aura that could destroy heaven and earth. However, the moment it came into contact with Su Fan's body, a dazzling golden light suddenly burst out from his body, forming a dazzling light shield. Clang! A sound like the ancient sound of chaos sounded from where the two combined. Su Fan didn't feel anything. Chapter 1883. The golden light barrier that covered his body slowly shattered into pieces. However, to Wang Feng's surprise, the giant life form that slapped him seemed to have been hit by an extremely terrifying force. Not only did its palm break, but it also broke apart. Even its entire body was sent flying. Su Fan could see with his naked eyes that the giant's body was breaking apart. Su Fan was speechless. The ancestor gods' 3 protective divine lights, aren't they too abnormal? Su Fan murmured. His master's attack didn't work because it didn't come into contact with the light shield, so it didn't reflect directly. But that guy had used brute force. Not only did he activate the protective divine light's defense, but he also activated the protective divine light's ability to reflect damage. It might even reflect damage that was several times stronger. In fact, the protective divine lights that Wang Feng gave him, they were formed by combining his divine power with the power of the Black Lotus. Their defensive ability was extremely abnormal. Even the power of origin would suffer a strong rebound as long as it came into contact with the protective divine lights. Even the power of origin would be reflected. The stronger the power, the more terrifying the rebound damage. Basically, the rebound damage could directly hit the upper limit of the power of origin. Su Fan's current feelings were indescribable. He came here because he relied on the 3 protective divine lights that the ancestor god gave him. Originally, he wanted to use them to take his master away. However, his master had become a descendant of that god. There is only one protective divine light left. Su Fan looked at the giant god that had been shattered. To a certain extent, he had avenged the destruction of his previous life. Unfortunately, this was all he could do. Su Fan was determined to die. He looked at his master with a complicated expression. The latter didn't understand. Su Fan knew that he might be reporting to that god. Next, he would have to face that god. Even if he had 3 protective divine lights, he wouldn't be able to withstand that god's attack. Thinking of this, Su Fan suddenly thought, if I die like this, I'll be letting down the ancestor god's nurturing. The ancestor god had given him so many points that he already had 3 protective divine lights. He could have used the points to quickly strengthen himself. But because of his master, he came to this world in advance and faced such a powerful god. Su Fan shook his head. At this moment, in the sky, a majestic figure suddenly appeared. Su Fan's pupils suddenly contracted. Sure enough, it was that god. In his previous life, he had only seen it once, but I will never forget it for the rest of my life. Interesting. Her Eminence spoke slowly as she looked at Su Fan's master. Who would have thought that 2 of my spirit supremacies would be killed? Even the Mountain Dragon Emperor's divine power was greatly damaged. He fell from a spirit supremacy to a desolate race member. He is on his last breath? It would appear that that native heavenly deity has truly given you quite a bit of power. To be honest, for the first time, Di Tianxian was somewhat dissatisfied with his own clan tribe. This was the first time in many years that he had done something so badly. Yet, it was a simple and crude matter. This made him even more curious about that native heavenly god. Fine, let this god give a try. Her Eminence's figure was as majestic as the sun, emitting millions of rays of divine light that caused the entire god realm to flicker. What is so special about you? The moment the divine voice fell, the billions of divine lights began to condense. Emperor, falling underworld light. The billions of divine lights changed in an instant and gathered above Su Fan's head. Like a torrential waterfall, they suddenly came crashing down. Within them, there was the origin energy that shone like stars. Wherever it passed, it seemed as if everything turned into ruins and rotted away. Su Fan suddenly trembled. He could almost only feel the aura of death. This was something that had never happened in the previous 2 attacks. Dazzling divine light rose from Su Fan's body again. This time, the divine light was still firmly covering Su Fan's body. The torrential underworld light came crashing down. It fiercely attacked the divine light on Su Fan's body. After an unknown period of time, break! The divine voice sounded faintly. The divine light on Su Fan's body suddenly shattered. The moment it shattered, the torrential underworld light surged violently and rushed toward the divine shadow in the sky. I see. Di Tianxian seemed to be somewhat stunned. What kind of origin energy is this? It can even easily reflect the origin energy. Oomph. Di Tianxian waved his hand casually. The sleeve formed by the divine shadow directly covered the rebounding underworld light. His facial expression changed slightly and returned to normal. It's only SOSO, Di Tianxian said indifferently. In the distance, in the shadow, a pair of cold eyebrows seemed to be frowning slightly. Di Tianxian is extremely prideful. Compared to the ordinary gods of the divine system, he is even more prideful. Just now, he forcefully took a hit from the origin energy of the underworld light, which was several times stronger than his own. I'm afraid he suffered quite a bit of damage. The shadow shook his head slightly and seemed to be sighing. It's just a protective divine light bestowed by that fellow to his believer. You have to spend so much effort to deal with it. If he comes here personally, among the heavenly gods, you, Di Tianxian, can be considered a powerful heavenly god who has truly grasped the will of the universe. However, it seems like you have still underestimated him. Forget it. Let's see how long you can last in his hands. Next time, I have to find someone stronger. Those below the supreme god level, I can't order them around anymore. The shadow seemed to be muttering softly. However, his eyes were still fixed in front of him without moving. At this moment, Di Tianxian calmed down a little and stared at Su Fan. He said indifferently, I want to see how many more you can reflect. After that, another underworld light that blotted out the sky and covered the earth came crashing down like the Milky Way. Are you looking at you? I'm leaving. Su Fan sneered. In his previous life, he was a venerated immortal. His experiences were extraordinary. What happened to his master was a great blow to him. However, it was not enough to make him want to die. At this moment, he only wanted to return to his original world and cultivate crazily. As he thought about this, Su Fan took out the treasure that he had exchanged for in the prize pool and prepared to return. However, it was obvious that Su Fan had underestimated this venerated god. In the divine domain, the gods could seal every inch of space with just a thought. It was impossible for him to leave. Su Fan's plan was very good. When he came, he used the Eternal Cave ritual track. When he returned, he would use the same thing. However, when he came, he had a premonition that this treasure might lose its effect in the divine domain. However, the power of the protective divine light made him respect the strength of the ancestor god even more. He thought that since the Eternal Cave ritual track was a product of the ancestor god, it should also be effective in this place. Obviously, Su Fan was wrong. Su Fan's plan was very good. When he came, he used the Eternal Cave ritual track. When he returned, he would use the same thing. However, when he came, he had a premonition that this treasure might lose its effect in the divine domain. However, the power of the protective divine light made him respect the strength of the ancestor god even more. He thought that since the Eternal Cave ritual track was a product of the ancestor god, it should also be effective in this place. Obviously, Su Fan was wrong. Chapter 1884. A calm voice resounded throughout the entire deity domain. The sky that was torn apart by the giant hand seemed to have split the entire deity domain. A divine figure that was as majestic as the torrent of the universe broke through the sky and appeared in the deity domain. Below, Su Fan took a deep breath and couldn't help but blurt out, "Ancestor God." The ancestor god was here. This was something he had never expected. For him, who had just become a believer and hadn't been here for long. That majestic golden figure was the first time Su Fan saw the ancestor god descend. Every time he saw it, it was still as majestic and magnificent as before. He didn't agree with these gods. The ancestor god's form was still that of a human. Su Fan also believed that the ancestor god might have evolved from a human to become such a powerful god. Although this god of the deity domain also had the form of a giant human, his appearance and aura didn't have any human characteristics. "I have caused trouble for the ancestor god," Su Fan muttered. In fact, to Wang Feng, this wasn't considered trouble. On the contrary, at the same time, a native heavenly god? Di Tianxian looked at the descending divine figure and frowned slightly. His deity domain had been torn apart. He sensed it after it had been torn apart. The strength of this native heavenly god was indeed extraordinary. However, this was his deity domain after all. Di Tianxian waved his hand slightly. In an instant, the shattered sky was restored to its original state at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as though it had never been torn apart. To come to this god's deity domain so recklessly. Di Tianxian smiled coldly. As expected of those native heavenly gods who don't know their place. This god has been waiting for you for a long time. As a god of the D-God system, he knew this famous native heavenly god very well. He also knew that the blood spirit god, the earth spirit god, and the others of the Kilo divine branch had been defeated in his own divine domain. However, to a god like him, the blood spirit god and the earth spirit god were trash. The heavenly god system was an extremely high realm in the deity system universe. It was extremely complicated and couldn't be judged based on the realm of the heavenly god system universe. There were projections of wills and wills of the universe. Some had passed the initial wheel cataclysm, and some had not. There was the strength of the godly realm, the strength of the clan tribe, the strength of the origin, the strength of the universe saint weapon, and so on. In this realm, the strength of a heavenly god could be divided into many levels. There was no need to talk about other things. Just passing the initial wheel cataclysm alone would allow one to split into tens to hundreds of levels. This was because the strength of a heavenly god would naturally grow stronger after each tribulation. However, even if he passed the initial wheel calamity, if he did not nurture a divine domain, nurture a spawn race, and also did not have the true will of the universe, he would not be that strong. Therefore, in this realm, 3, 6, and 9 ranks were not enough to describe it. On the other hand, Once one reached the paramount god level, the difference in strength would be obvious. However, reaching the paramount god level was simply too difficult. Tianxian was not afraid of this native heavenly god. He was one of the top 10 experts in the entire imperial god system. It must be known that the top 5 in the imperial god system were all paramount gods. The rest were naturally heavenly gods. For him to be in the top 10 meant that he wasn't that far off from becoming a paramount god. At this position, he had seen too many powerful heavenly gods. He had also fought with many native heavenly gods. It was impossible for him to be afraid. Moreover, Tianxian had expected that Tianxian would come. If Tianxian did not come, he would not be able to perform well. Thinking of this, Tianxian said indifferently, 10 ultimate divine intent. Just as Tianxian finished his sentence, all of a sudden, pillars of light shot up into the sky from 10 different directions in all directions of the god realm from a great distance. A faint smile appeared on Tianxian's face. The 10 ultimate divine intents were formed from 10 different types of ultimate and strongest origins. The divine intent was a type of divine intent array. With his own will of the universe as the center, the array was activated in the divine domain. Any heavenly god that entered the divine domain, Tianxian was confident that he could severely injure them. Even the most famous heavenly gods in the current divine domain's universe. Tianxian could even guarantee that even if they entered his divine domain, they would not be able to leave so easily. Not to mention a mere native heavenly god. Even if they did not die, they would be skinned alive. Divine Emperor's sickle. Tianxian's wrist moved slightly, and a purple-gold sickle appeared in his hand. At the same time, there seemed to be billions of illusory figures behind Tianxian, forming a horrifying and majestic statue. It emitted a powerful aura. Wang Feng narrowed his eyes and looked at this god. It was indeed different, or rather, it was because of the venue. The aura this god was emitting at this moment was even stronger than that of Yuan. However, Wang Feng believed that Yuan's true strength should be above this god's. Of course, this was just a feeling. After all, they had not truly fought against each other. However, Wang Feng believed in his own feelings. The statue behind him was formed by the power of faith, Yi Zichen said with a frown. Wang Fengxin pondered and said, it contains the power of faith from at least several universes. Moreover, there's also the aura of the universe's will. This might be a heavenly god who has truly grasped the universe's will. No wonder he can casually invade the immortal Dao civilization universe where Su Fan is from. With such strength, even that civilization can only be crushed. The universe where Su Fan was from in his previous life was a universe that was comparable to Yi Fan's universe. In Su Fan's previous life, he was a celestial prime. He could easily crush countless worlds and planets. The level of his strength was extraordinarily high. Since this god could casually crush him, he was naturally not simple. And that purple sickle, Wang Feng's eyes flickered slightly. It is not weak. It's just that. Wang Feng looked around. The 10 intense light pillars seemed to have covered the entire divine realm with a layer of light. Each pillar of light contained an extremely powerful origin energy. The 10 light pillars seemed to reinforce and counteract each other. In the sky, they intertwined with each other endlessly. Good stuff. Wang Feng's eyes lit up. These origin energies should be very powerful. They should not be weak. From what Wang Feng could sense, there was also an extremely powerful sword origin energy. Wang Feng did not know what the other origin energies were. However, he felt that they were very powerful. As the 10 streams of light intertwined in the sky, Wang Feng could vaguely feel a slight threat. At this time, Wang Feng smiled slightly. Of course, I have to use the Pangu axe. In front of the will of splitting open the sky, no matter how powerful one's origin array was, it was just a piece of paper. Chapter 1885. Not to mention the origin, even the will of the universe would find it difficult to withstand such an extreme attack. Emotiant's Will of the Galaxy back then was a clear example. It was directly split into fragments by the Pangu axe. As for these origins, I'm sorry, I'll accept them with a smile. Wang Feng took a deep breath. The body he was using now was not the body of faith. The body of faith had always been in the ancestral realm. Wang Feng did not intend to reveal it easily. The body he was using now was the strongest body formed by the will of the heavenly embryo when he cultivated the yin-yang intersection origin with Shiyu. This body was formed by the will of the heavenly embryo and the soul of the initial wheel. The body and soul were highly integrated. It was the most suitable body to use the Pangu axe. Finishing a battle as quickly as possible had always been Wang Feng's motto. Without hesitation, Wang Feng's palm moved slightly. Along with the bright light from his body, an ancient axe appeared in his hand. The axe, which was like a black and gold flowing light, had a few more traces of gold. The sharp black and gold cold light seemed to be able to cut the entire divine realm in half. Wang Feng's current strength was actually very special. In terms of divine power, he did not have a lot of divine power reserves, especially this body. This body was not the body of faith. The divine power in the body of faith could be converted from the power of faith. The body of faith was bound to the ancestral realm. The power of faith was endless. Not only could it be stored, but it could also be used for a very long time. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was endless. The number of origins Wang Feng controlled was too many. In addition to the 7 origins of the Origin Tribulation Divine King that set the rules for the ancestral realm, he used the most. The most important one was the primordial origin. In terms of combat power, the primordial origin was almost zero. Basically, it had no combat power. However, the primordial origin was so powerful that it could deduce and analyze the energy of other origins and then integrate the information into the primordial origin. This meant that the primordial origin could continue to cultivate and absorb all kinds of origins through the origin tribulation origin. It could even deduce and even create the will of the universe. This was very frightening. All the wills of the universe were wills that existed in the multiverse itself, and they were very rare. It was extremely difficult to obtain them. However, no one had ever heard of anyone who could create the will of the universe. At least, as far as Wang Feng knew, there was no such thing. Wang Feng didn't know if there was a God system in the universe, and he had never asked. However, if the primordial chaos origin could deduce a new will of the universe based on the information it had gathered, it would definitely allow him to reach a higher level. His strength would also enter a brand new world. Therefore, in the future, Wang Feng would definitely have to rely on the primordial origin to make further progress. And now, the will of the Pangu axe was one of his strongest powers. His palm felt the familiar aura of the Pangu axe. The Pangu axe did not have an artifact spirit. To be more precise, the will to split open the heavens was a life form of the highest dimension. The will of the universe was a level of power that ordinary life forms could not imagine. It could easily destroy a unit universe and shatter all the rules of the universe. Even Su Fan, who was an immortal venerable in his previous life, found it hard to imagine how terrifying this power was. Moreover, this kind of willpower, it was not something that could be used just because one obtained it. He still needed comprehension and compatibility. Ever since Wang Feng obtained the Pangu axe martial soul, every time he used it, he would gain comprehension and increase compatibility with the will of the Pangu axe that was still in a broken state, until he reached the dark demon world and the divine world. When he entered the spirit realm, he once again repaired the Pangu axe martial soul. The real repair required a period of nurturing. Only now could he use it. Wang Feng even felt that with his current strength, he could not fully unleash the power of the will of the Pangu axe martial soul. He could only use it normally. However, even so, it was enough. The instant before he held the Pangu axe in his hand, Wang Feng's divine figure changed. It was as if divine light from the 9 heavens had descended. Rumble. Under that incomparably terrifying aura, the entire deity realm was directly split into two. The light shield formed by the 10 origins flowing in the sky disintegrated in an instant. Then, the aura of the axe light did not diminish. It instantly charged toward Tianxin. The will of splitting open the heavens and earth was a terrifying power that could make the universe tremble. With his full strength, Wang Feng's current state was even stronger than when he faced Yuan. Tianxin looked at the axe light that was coming toward him. He seemed to be in a daze. When it got closer, he suddenly shouted with a tearing voice, "Will of the Emperor, annihilation." The purple scythe in his hand suddenly turned into a ray of purple divine light. The brilliant divine aura seemed to be unparalleled in the world. It enveloped Tianxin's entire body. The divine statue behind him let out a fierce roar. Almost immediately, it entered Tianxin's body. In an instant, Tianxin seemed to emit the divine aura of a supreme, true emperor of the ancient universe. It seemed to be able to make everything fall under the extremely dim purple scythe light. In the next moment, the axe light chopped down. Suddenly, the heavens and earth collapsed. The spirit realm shattered. Cracks appeared in every corner of the spirit realm. Su Fan looked at this scene in horror. The space around him was instantly shattered into pieces. The color of the void, dark and gray, appeared in every corner of the spirit realm. This spirit realm is shattered. Su Fan took a deep breath. The aftershock came. He could feel the aura of death. At the same time, he looked out of the corner of his eyes. He could only see countless lives and countless clan members in the spirit realm. The power of faith that was generated from the prayers, or the clan members that were guarding the palace in the distance. All of their bodies stiffened at this moment. Then, they quickly lost all signs of life. At this moment, a ray of divine light came from the west and enveloped Su Fan. It barely resisted the terrifying aftershock. Master. Su Fan suddenly looked at his master on the other side. He found that his master looked lifeless like a statue. It was as if he had lost all signs of life. He gritted his teeth and flew over. The spirit realm shattered. Countless power of the laws disappeared in an instant. At this moment, Su Fan no longer had the pressure of carrying a mountain on his back. Instead, he was incomparably relaxed. Of course, he knew that it was because the ancestor god still cared about him. Otherwise, without the protective divine light that suddenly descended, he might have been gone. The aftershock of the battle was not something that he could imagine. Su Fan walked to his master's side. He used the protective divine light on his body to protect his master. He sighed softly. Then he looked at the sky, at the center of the light that was like the explosion of the sun. With his current strength, he couldn't tell what was going on. He could not see anything at all. It was too terrifying. This power, after an unknown period of time, Su Fan suddenly felt his master move. Then, a slightly trembling and weak voice sounded. "Little Fan?" Hearing this voice, Su Fan did not look at his master. Instead, he suddenly looked at the sky. Chapter 1886. Master had awakened. This meant that there was only one possibility. Tianxin had been defeated. In fact, Su Fan felt that his breathing had become faster than ever. In the sky, cloud shadow universe light was everywhere. Everything was blurry. He couldn't see what was going on at all. A powerful force was tearing apart the dimension of this god domain. The god domain had completely collapsed. Only the remnant images were scattered in every corner like a painting. Suddenly, drops of eye-catching blood droplets fell from the sky. Then, like a heavy downpour, "Is that blood?" Su Fan felt that the blood droplets contained a terrifying energy that seemed to be able to destroy everything. He didn't know whose blood it was. At this moment, somewhere in this shattered god domain. It seems that Ling Yuan didn't make him use all his strength last time. He is much stronger than the guy I met at that place. A low voice echoed in the shadows. There are not many people in the God System universe who can grow at such a speed. Plus, every time he attacks, he uses this item. It seems that I'm right. The Emperor God faction has been too active recently. I hope that I can teach them a lesson this time. The murmurs in the shadows were unknown to others. There were only two pairs of eyes staring at the scene of cloud shadow universe light in front of them. Wang Feng's divine shadow was shining brightly. Around him, dozens of light sources were shining. Pangu Axe was slightly dimmer. However, the divine power was still there. Di Tianxin's divine shadow was completely weakened. The huge divine statue that had merged with his back had reappeared. The originally bright light of faith had also dimmed. The purple gold scythe had also shattered into pieces and scattered in the shattered void. The divine blood was flowing rapidly along with the divine shadow. Wang Feng shook his head slightly. This god was able to take a hit from his Pangu Axe head-on without dying. He was considered a strong expert. If he didn't have the true will of the universe, he would have disappeared completely. As for this god domain, it was completely shattered by the remnant waves just now. The god domain of a god should be extremely sturdy. Naturally, it should be many times sturdier than those big worlds and unit universes. However, when the two universes collided, it was still shattered like glass. Of course, most of the remnant waves were created by Pangu Axe. For a heavenly god, the shattering of a deity's domain was not fatal. As long as the will of the universe was still there, the divine dominion could still be rebuilt. However, this might be the end of it. As for the will of the universe, Wang Feng narrowed his eyes. The strength of this heavenly god was indeed very strong. His will of the universe had fused with the purple scythe. Although the scythe was easily shattered, it was still very powerful. However, the powerful will of the universe did not shatter. Clearly, this heavenly god not only possessed the true will of the universe, but he had also passed the initial wheel Ian. Unfortunately, although it did not shatter, it was not far from shattering. Wang Feng looked at another part of the void. There seemed to be nothing there. However, Wang Feng could faintly sense a unique fluctuation of life. It wasn't a life spawn of this god realm, nor was it Su Fan or his master. Instead, it was another life. It definitely had nothing to do with the god domain. That was because most of the life spawns related to the god realm had been wiped out in the aftermath just now. It turned into nothingness. It doesn't feel good to be treated as a knife, right? Wang Feng looked at Di Tianxin and sneered. Do you understand the strength of this native heavenly god now? Di Tianxin's figure was ethereal, as if it would dissipate at any time. However, upon closer inspection, it was still frozen. You know your situation? Di Tianxin looked at Wang Feng coldly. You're not going to make a move? Of course, he knew that he was being treated as a knife. However, he was willing to do so. In fact, when he invaded that immortal Dao civilization, all life should have been subdued or directly destroyed. However, he missed out on Su Fan. With his strength at that time, he was a fish that escaped from the long river of time in the immortal Dao civilization. How could he not know? With his strength, if he wanted to enter the long river of time in the unit universe to sense the history of all civilizations in the universe, no life would be able to escape his senses. However, this fish seemed to be a little special. He originally wanted to stop it, but later on, he ignored it, because from then on, he finally had a chance to communicate with that person in the shadows. If not for that person's orders. Even if Su Fan's soul came back to life after being hit by that giant spirit dragon, he would not be able to hide from Di Tianxin's senses. How would he have the chance to escape? And now, the scene before him. No, to be precise, he had already expected this from the moment Su Fan came to the divine realm. He did not know what that person was plotting, but he could be used by the other party. This was an honor and a possibility. You are a heavenly god after all. Wang Feng frowned slightly and looked at him. Why would you be used by someone who does not even dare to show his face? Why are you doing this? Tell me. If you can surprise me, I will spare your life. I will not take your universe's will. Don't use your god system's rules to suppress me. I will not fall for it. If I kill you, the huge god system's universe will only lose an elite. However, the god system's universe will not deal with me directly because of this. Moreover, you guys are the ones who schemed against me first. Di Tianxin fell silent. This native heavenly god clearly had a clear understanding of himself. The battle of the gods had caused a huge commotion in the divine world. Even if the other party was not from the god system's universe, he definitely had a channel in the god system's universe. After all, native heavenly gods were a group in the god system's universe. It was not impossible for him to know the general situation in the god system's universe. However, only he would know if it was worth it. Tianxin closed his eyes. He did not seem to want to say another word. You have backbone. Seeing this, Wang Feng shook the pango axe in his hand and chopped down at Tianxin once again. Just as the axe light landed on Tianxin's head, Tianxin suddenly opened his eyes and snorted coldly. What's the harm in telling you? Wang Feng's figure paused, and the axe light gradually disappeared. It was as if nothing had happened. He was not sure if this fellow really had backbone. It was just that, therefore, he was just putting on an act just now. Of course, if the other party really did not have any intention of telling him, then the act would become the real thing. It's very simple, Tianxin said indifferently. She is the origin god of the 5 ancient god systems in the god systems universe. The 5 ancient god systems represent the 5 categories of the god systems universe. The origin gods are the inheritors of the purest god blood among the 5 ancient god systems. Wang Feng nodded. That was right. It matched what Yin Qingjue said. Why does she want to deal with me? Wang Feng looked at the void in the distance and continued asking. Chapter 1887. I don't know about that. Tianxin coughed a few times and slowly sucked the dripping god blood back from the void. The 5 ancient god systems control the god system universe. Their vastness permeates into every corner of the god system universe. This god is only from the imperial god system. There is too much of a difference in seniority between them and the 5 ancient divine systems. Even a number 1 overgod in our pantheon might not be qualified to face her directly. To be able to be used by her is already a great honor in itself. Wang Feng could clearly see a trace of pride on Tianxin's face. He was silent for a moment. He shook his head, turned around, and waved his hand at Su Fan. I'm rather surprised by what you've said. Since that's the case, you can keep your dog life. Wang Feng's palm moved slightly, and the axe light tore through the void, bringing Su Fan and the other person away from this place. He didn't finish his words. Tianxin's words weren't lies. That shadow must be spying in the dark as well. In fact, it was even possible that Tianxin's words were all planned by the other party. What Wang Feng didn't expect was that this wasn't the first time. He thought of the abyss last time, Su Fan's background, and so on. This mysterious deity who had once stayed in the soul realm of the dark demon realm for a while actually had such a great origin. But what made Wang Feng feel uneasy was that this guy seemed to be interested in him. It gave Wang Feng the illusion that he was being watched. This was not a good thing. It was different from the war of gods in the god system universe. It was obvious that they were targeting you in secret. Looks like I have to go back and make some preparations. Although the number of members in the chat group is far from enough, the universe that they spawn can provide a lot of faith power. In addition to the amplification from the primal chaos green lotus, perhaps I should be quiet for a while. By the time the ancestral realm's 9 paths reincarnation is established, the war of the deities will be near. The guy shouldn't be thinking about dealing with me anymore. The 5 great ancient god systems. Ancient god system. I wonder how much the Crimson Divine Fox Emperor knows. This god is already so powerful, but he still refuses to breathe a word about the 5 ancient divine systems. Even the overgods aren't qualified to face that fellow directly. Wang Feng was not sure how far he could go in the divine system universe. Not long after Wang Feng left, Tianxin's divine shadow immediately bowed slightly. I have committed a grave mistake by revealing your identity and secrets. I deserve death. Oh, the shadow's drawn-out voice suddenly rang out. Heavenly God D, you are rather interesting. Since he already knew that he deserved death, then why did he say it just now? Regardless of whether he spoke or not, he would still die. Yet, You have to say it out loud. It seems like you have a grudge against me. Is it difficult for you to be my saber? Di Tianxian instantly knelt down in fear and said, That's not the case. What does that mean? Di Tianxian immediately raised his head, and there was a tinge of arrogance in his tone. I am a god of the Emperor God system and a member of the God system universe. How could he die at the hands of a native heavenly god? That was absolutely impossible. Therefore, even if I have to reveal some of your highness's identity, I only want to die in your highness's hands. Even if I'm not qualified to die in your hands, I won't be killed by a native heavenly god. The shadow in the shadows shook his head slightly. Di Tianxian's words were filled with sincerity. He truly did not want to be killed by that fellow. That was no longer as simple as death. Instead, it was humiliation. It's quite a pity for you to die just like that, the shadow said. Now that your divine domain is broken, your originally weak strength is even more unsightly. However, you are still a heavenly god with the will of the universe. Your Emperor God system treats the face of a god as more important than your own life. How about this? Go and do one more thing. I will help you restore your divine domain. Not only will your strength recover, but I will also help you restore your strength. The next time you face this native heavenly god, I will also allow you to defeat him. What do you think? When Di Tianxian heard this, he was stunned. He could not help but ask, Your Highness, the strength of this native heavenly god is extraordinary. Although I'm a god of the Emperor God system and have fought with him personally, I still know my own strength. Even if my strength reaches its peak state again, I will not be a match for him. I'm still aware of this. Your Highness has already done me a great favor by helping me restore my divine domain. The shadow suddenly waved out a shadow fog and interrupted Di Tianxian's words. Do you think that I can't do what I say? That's not it. Di Tianxian hurriedly said. It's just that native heavenly god is really quite powerful. Among all the heavenly gods in the entire god system universe, there are only a few who can fight with him. Perhaps there are only a few of them. I do not dare to ask for more. So, you are afraid after just one fight? The shadow seemed to have understood something. He could not help but sneer. If that's the case, you should have said so earlier. You are so useless. This blade of yours only looks sharp. It is very blunt when used. No wonder it is so weak. You are not even afraid of death. Why are you afraid of this? Di Tianxian's expression started to change. Normally, it was very difficult for a god to have any changes in their emotions. However, that was only true for their clan members, because they were high and mighty gods who controlled all living things in the universe. However, in front of this person, Di Tianxian could not maintain that kind of divinity. Then, since that is the case, Di Tianxian took a deep breath. Your Highness, what do you want me to do? Tell me. A few soft laughter sounded from the shadow. Do you know about the native heavenly gods? The shadow asked. Of course I do. Di Tianxian was slightly stunned. Who would not know about this? What I mean is, the shadow paused for a moment. Then he slowly said, the galaxy where the native heavenly gods are located. Di Tianxian was stunned again. You're talking about the galaxies in the 8 Desolates. That's right, the shadow said calmly. All the native heavenly gods in the God System universe are in that galaxy. This information is rather unique in the God System universe. The 5 great ancient God systems have all sent gods to secretly infiltrate the God System universe. However, the results are mediocre. However, recently, the 8 Desolates seem to have sent news about a remnant of the will of the previous primordial era. It is possible that the hidden will of the universe will be born. Once the native heavenly gods obtain the power of the universe's will, you should also understand, their strength will increase tremendously. The native heavenly gods have already gathered a large group of new generation experts. They plan to explore this remnant. However, on the side of our God System universe, the 5 great ancient God systems are unable to infiltrate. They do not understand the storyline of this remnant at all. Hearing this, Di Tianxian seemed to have understood something. However, he frowned and asked, Your Highness, the remnant that even the 5 great ancient god systems are unable to infiltrate. Could it be that you want me to give it a try? You are thinking too much, the shadow said. You can't even enter the 8 desolates, let alone the remnant. Tiantian. What I want you to do is another thing, the shadow said slowly. Go and intercept the various geniuses that the native heavenly gods have gathered from their universe and are planning to send into the remnant. Now that your divine domain has been destroyed, you only need to disguise yourself slightly. Then, you'll be able to easily blend in with these geniuses. Of course, even so, you will not be able to escape from the interception of those galaxies in the 8 desolates. However, if you can blend in with these geniuses and take away a few of them, it will not be a problem. Tiantian was slightly enlightened. So this is the request. It is not simple, however. Chapter 1888. Ancestral Realm. Su Fan's return caused a huge commotion among the members of the chat group. Although there weren't many members in the chat group, they still had some friendships with each other. In addition, they were all believers of the ancestral god. They could communicate with each other about the cultures of the various worlds and strengthen their friendships. Also, it was very strange for a group member to suddenly disappear. At this moment in the chat group, Li Feiyu, Brother Su, you are finally back. Your icon has dimmed for a long time. Back then, we came in together. You and your sudden disappearance made me very anxious. Han Li was indeed quite desolate. Anyone would panic when a person suddenly disappeared. Moreover, they were the first batch to enter the chat group. Fan Yi, Big Brother Immortal Sovereign, where did you go? You missed out on the Dragon God Realms event. You suffered a huge loss. We are all rich people with 1,000,000 points now. Are you envious? Eternal Peace Pawn Shop's worker. Did you encounter any difficulties? If you have any difficulties, just tell us. We are in the same group. We are all believers of the ancestral god. It is only right for us to help each other. Handshake. JPG. Tushi Ancient Emperor Jade. Don't send messages anymore. Let him prepare and talk. Ghostly. That's right. He disappeared for so long. Something important must have happened to him. If it is not convenient to talk about it, there is no need to say it. Seeing this scene, Su Fan couldn't help but sigh. With a smile, he recounted everything that had happened. He told them the details of what happened in his previous life, what happened to that god, how his master was taken away, how his soul luckily escaped, and how he was reborn. Now that he had found his master, he could cultivate in peace and pursue the supreme great Tao. And in the future, these group members would definitely not be existences that did not belong to him. He told them everything from the bottom of his heart. After everyone heard it, they also sighed. Fan Yi, so that protective divine light is actually so powerful? From what you said, the strength of that god is simply beyond your imagination. You were a venerable immortal in your previous life. You can't imagine how strong that god is. The protective divine light bestowed by the ancestor God allowed you to keep your life under such circumstances. The Tushi Ancient Emperor's Jade said, Woo-woo. Big Brother Su Fan, you are truly infatuated. I remember that after you were reborn, you exchanged a few points from the ancestor god. The first treasure that you exchanged for was that eternal tracing sand. So it was because you wanted to know more about your master. Moreover, even though you know that it's basically impossible for you to come back alive after going to that god's divine realm, you still want to meet your master. Yangon Pawn, are those gods so powerful? Wouldn't they be able to destroy our world with a wave of their hand? How terrifying. Wouldn't it be the same as being completely brainwashed to become the minion of those gods? Even your teacher couldn't resist it. He could only obey the god's orders to kill you. Ghostly, letting 2 beloved ones kill the latter? Actually, it's not just this god. Anyway, those high and mighty experts like to play this kind of childish and cruel trick. Li Feiyu, I forgot about the divine protective light. In that case, I have a set of life-saving talismans. I'm almost at the Tao integration stage. I don't intend to use this divine protective light easily. Su Fan, the divine protective light is automatically activated when it senses that you are in mortal danger. We can't control it. However, the strength of the ancestor god this time has indeed refreshed my understanding once again. When everyone heard this, their eyes instantly lit up. They had only listened to Su Fan's narration. In fact, it wasn't very detailed, especially the battle process. It was simply impossible to describe it with words or words. However, if Su Fan had a video recording at that time, it might not be so. Su Fan, I'm sorry. In that situation, I couldn't use the recording function of the chat group at all. Therefore, I didn't record the battle between the ancestor god and that god completely. It's very difficult for you to see it with your own eyes. There's really no other way. In that kind of battle, the divine realm would shatter, the void would tremble, and all the laws and great Daos would be shattered into pieces. Even a little bit of the aftermath of the battle could easily destroy me. Everyone instantly felt regretful. However, at this moment, Su Fan continued, although I couldn't record the battle process. However, because I had the divine protective light that the ancestor god gave me at that time, I was barely able to withstand the aftermath of the battle and was able to move a little. Therefore, I recorded a shorter video. However, that's a video of the battle. Fanyi, I want to see it too. Soundbreak. JPG. Young and pawn shop's employee. Me too. Everyone, hurry up and send it up. Su Fan smiled and uploaded the video of the battle to the chat group. It was a video of the battle after the battle. It was a video of the ancestor god looking down at the shattered divine realm. His entire body exuded a terrifying aura that seemed capable of killing gods and emperors. In the shattered divine realm, there was a god prostrating in the clouds, dripping with blood. Even if there was no video and it was just a picture, it still made everyone's blood boil. It was as if they had personally experienced that battle. Fanyi, good. In the future, I want to be as awesome as the ancestor god. Not only is the ancestor god my belief, but he is also my idol. Young and pawn shop's employee. Although it's a video, the aura emitted by the entire heaven and earth made me unable to breathe just by looking at it. I don't know the situation back then. Ghostly, the shattered world, the great Tao that has perished, there is no aura of life in the heaven and earth. Also, the endless starry sky outside the void is all shattered. It's too terrifying, although the aftermath of the battle was in D. Tianxin's divine realm. The divine realm of a god was originally a powerful plane that existed in the multiverse. Outside the plane, it was naturally the nebula of the Emperor God system. In fact, it wasn't just D. Tianxin's divine realm that was shattered. The nebula of the Emperor God system was also shattered. However, the laws of the God system were very powerful. The laws of D. Tianxin's divine realm were destroyed. However, the laws of the God system's universe were still present. The star region where the Emperor God system was located still had the powerful laws of the universe reinforced by the Supreme God. It was impossible for it to be shattered so easily. Therefore, the aftermath of the battle between Wang Feng and D. Tianxin only affected a small area of that star region. However, if one looked at it from the perspective of the divine realm, the entire starry sky seemed to have shattered. In fact, it wasn't that exaggerated. She ancient Emperor Jade. You? Forget it. It's already not bad if you have 1/3 of the ancestor god's strength. Young and pawn shop's employee. Hey, who doesn't have a dream, right? Old brother Fanyi? Sky Eyes. JPG. Ghostly. If the ancestor god knew about this, he would be very pleased. FPZW. Chapter 1889. Li Feiyu. Of course, the ancestor god is different. However, I feel that with our current aptitudes, it will take us a long time to reach the ancestor god's level. Can't let me down. Just think about it. The ancestor god's level is far beyond our imagination. Borrow 10,000 years from the heavens. As long as we can do the best we can and not embarrass the ancestor god. Fanyi, Brother Ying's words are reasonable. At this moment, the ancestor god, you don't have to look down on yourselves. Since you can become my believers, I know your potential. All of you have the aptitude to reach my level. Wang Feng really couldn't stand these guys bragging here. To be honest, Wang Feng didn't feel anything when these guys were bragging. He might as well motivate them. Let their strength increase faster. Fan Yi, damn, the ancestor god is here. Ha ha, Xiao Yu look, the ancestor god said that we all have the aptitude. It's just a matter of time. Indeed, the ancestor god is the ancestor god. You're so small and not like women. We are the people chosen by the ancestor god. All of you have to be more confident. Ancient, JPG, Yong and pawn shops worker. I feel that my blood is boiling. Let's not talk about it anymore. I'm going to cultivate. Wang Feng, using his identity as the ancestor god to motivate them, was naturally effective. Even Wang Feng himself could feel that their power of faith had increased by a lot. When they were in the Dragon God Worlds event dungeon, their power of faith had also increased by a lot. But at that time, it was more crucial. Wang Feng didn't expect that his power of faith would increase by a lot just by saying a few words. He shook his head and thought for a while. Then, he realized that it might be because of the video uploaded by Su Fan. It allowed these guys to reach a higher level of power. So, their hearts were filled with respect and reverence. Otherwise, just saying a few words wouldn't be able to increase their power of faith so much. In the primitive universe, the power of faith is the power of wishes. The divine Tao of the primitive universe should be somewhat similar to the civilization system of the God system universe. The divine Tao was where the gods in the heavens opened temples in the mortal world to enjoy the incense and gather the power of wishes of all living beings. They could also cultivate to the highest level. Thinking of this, Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat. There were too many things to study in the prehistoric space civilization. However, Wang Feng did not know much about it. He had only inherited 3 treasures left behind by the primitive universe civilization. Since it was incomplete, it naturally could not contain the information of the entire primeval civilization. It's about time. The 5th path of reincarnation should have been established. This time, it should be the path of ghost, Wang Feng pondered. After this period of time, the body of faith and the Chaos Green Lotus had stored a large amount of faith power. At the very least, it was enough to establish 2 reincarnations. The reason for establishing the ghost path was that the ancestral realm had begun to produce a large number of living beings. This was especially true for the human race, which had a strong reproductive ability. Once there were a large number of living beings, it was natural that there would be internal or external conflicts between the races. Begin to die, although they all had their own reincarnation system. However, as long as there was life, as long as there was death, there would be a large amount of negative energy. The so-called negative energy referred to the resentment produced by the resentment of the dead. The ancestral realm's energy could be automatically purified. However, if a large amount of resentment was produced, it would easily cause a great change in the world, and the heavenly Tao would be flawed. At that time, even Yin Meng Yao, the heavenly Tao, would suffer some irreversible injuries. Even Wang Feng's body of faith would be somewhat affected. However, that would be the worst-case scenario. Since Wang Feng had already thought of it, he would naturally think of a way to prevent it from happening. The way was the path of ghost reincarnation. After a living being died, if it was unwilling to be like its own soul, it would produce a large amount of negative energy in the world. It would affect the balance of the world. Naturally, the ancestral realm would not be affected like this. That was because it was not the time yet. However, such a situation already existed. Therefore, the path of ghosts should be established. The ghost race was not the kind of race that needed to absorb the negative energy in the world to cultivate. On the contrary, in Wang Feng's setting, the ghost race was a life form that was specifically responsible for purifying the negative energy in the world. They shouldered their own mission. Therefore, the ghost race was particularly important. Because of the sufficient faith power, the path of ghost reincarnation was easily established. It was rare for the ghost race to exist. It took Wang Feng a lot of effort to create the ghost race. First of all, to be able to purify the negative energy meant that they must have an extremely pure physique. For this physique, Wang Feng used the red lotus of karmic fire to select the living soil needed for the physical body. He added several heavenly and earthly treasures in succession and tempered it. Only then could it be completely created. This physical body was as pure as snow. There was not a trace of impurities. It had a completely different skin quality and color from the human race. At the same time, to purify the negative energy, one would have to deal with all kinds of dead souls. Therefore, one must have a pair of eyes to be able to see through the boundary between reality and illusion, to be able to sense where the wandering souls in the ancestral realm were. Therefore, they had to have a third eye. After the physical body was designed, the next step was to choose the soul. The soul of the ghost race naturally had to be tempered by the karmic fire. It needed to have a pure and only mind. Otherwise, there would be impurities. Otherwise, it would be impossible to purify the negative energy in the world. After dealing with all of this, the ghost race was quietly born. At this time, there were already many wandering souls in the ancestral realm who were unwilling to step into the cycle of reincarnation. In the cycle of heavenly Tao, as long as there was a battle between living beings, there would naturally be endless deaths. Even if there was no battle, there would still be beings of various races who died because their lifespans were nearing the end. The ancestral realm was still fine for now. There weren't many of these wandering souls, but as the timeline changed for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years, then who knew how many of these wandering souls would be born and how much negative energy would be produced? Back in the Douluo divine world, the gods were trapped in the same place because they couldn't step into a higher realm. Who knew how much negative energy was produced? It was easy to imagine how much negative energy the gods produced. In the end, they had no choice but to seal the negative energy away. Only after that did Long Xie enter the seal and absorb all the negative energy. The ghost race should be the most low-key of these middle races, Wang Feng sighed softly. Their mission was not only to purify the negative energy in the world, but also to guide the wandering souls in the world to the right path. Because they had a mission, they naturally couldn't be born in the ancestral realm with a bang. After all, there were already many wandering souls in the ancestral realm who were unwilling to enter the cycle of reincarnation. FPZW. Chapter 1890. The ghost race had perfected the ecology of the ancestral realm. With the ghost race's arrival, the other reincarnations could operate more normally. However, the responsibility and mission of the ghost race was given by Wang Feng. However, the development of life was often unique. Wang Feng could not predict what the ghost race's life would be like after countless years. Now, there are already 6 reincarnations of the 9 paths of reincarnation. The ancestral realm looked like it had some form. The remaining 3 paths of reincarnation were the divine path, the yin-yang path, and the heavenly path. Wang Fengxin already had an idea. Half of the War of the Gods has passed. After the remaining 3 paths of reincarnation are established, the ancestral realm will be considered complete. Next, it only needs to enter a long period of development. The power of faith will gather continuously. Everything was on the right track. This made Wang Feng feel gratified. At this moment, he was roaming the land of the ancestral realm. He felt that the energy of heaven and earth in the ancestral realm was getting purer and purer. Naturally, he felt satisfied. The chat group has not had any new members for some time. However, the source of the power of faith is stable now. More members will just speed up the process. Even with the current speed, the ancestral realm will be able to develop to a higher level before the War of the Gods. Powerful beings will definitely be born one after another. This was inevitable. Even now, the humans, the monster race, the Azura race, and the others. The connate life forms that Wang Feng had created at the beginning had already reached an extremely high level, especially the Azura race, which was very powerful at birth. Although their reproduction rate was low, they were the first batch of powerful beings. When they were created, they could already fight with the gods' descendants. Their potential and strength were unparalleled. The humans had a large population. Although they were weak at birth, Back then, Wang Feng had deduced and deepened the 9 volumes of the Book of Ian based on the Heavenly Book. They had powerful cultivation methods. They did not lack the Great Path. The monster race was even more powerful. The birth of the monster race and the path of reincarnation were compiled by Wang Feng using the race genes contained in the pictures of the billions of beings in the primordial world. They had the bloodlines of the billions of monster race in the primordial world. However, they needed to awaken on their own. Basically, as long as they entered the monster race's reincarnation, they would be randomly assigned one of the billions of monster race patterns. The monster race that Wang Feng had created at the beginning were the most powerful ones. Those dragons were one of them. Dragon Clan. When he thought of this, Wang Fengxin thought, the 10,000 Dragon Pearl in the 10,000 Dragons universe contains the power of the great Tao that the Jade Plate of Good Fortune needs. Perhaps there are more 10,000 Dragon Pearls in the 10,000 Dragons universe. Or perhaps there are treasures similar to the 10,000 Dragon Pearls. The power of the great Tao contained in them should be able to repair the Jade Plate of Good Fortune. As long as the 10,000 Dragons universe had the power of the Great Path, then the Creation Jade Disc will be able to sense it should I make a trip to the 10,000 Dragons universe. Wang Fengxin's heart stirred, just as he was thinking. Suddenly, a distant voice transmission entered Wang Feng's mind. I've finished studying the fragment of will you gave me. Hearing this voice, Wang Fengxin was slightly shocked. It's Carl. Wang Feng didn't expect that Carl would still be able to contact him at this time. Back then, he had given him a fragment of the galaxy will, hoping that this great scientist of the super godly universe would be able to study the mysteries of the galaxy will through this fragment. From there, he would be able to find the main body of Emotiance. Speaking of this Emotiance, Wang Feng felt that this guy was quite powerful. Back then, after the clone was killed, he thought that he would be able to quickly find this guy's main body. In the end, Wang Feng used the primordial origin to deduce the galaxy will. He didn't manage to deduce anything. He simply couldn't deduce this guy's exact location. Later, he gave the fragment to Carl. Firstly, he hoped that Carl would be able to find something. Secondly, it was interesting. The last time this guy contacted him, it was because of the Blood Spirit God. However, the Blood Spirit God had lured him into his shattered God domain and called 2 helpers to deal with him. In the end, even the origin was taken away by him. His strength had greatly decreased. The deity seal on Carl's body had most likely disappeared. Wang Feng didn't contact him much after that, but that fragment of will was still with him. Now that he sent a message. Interesting. It seems that this guy really managed to find something. Wang Feng pondered. Where are you? Send me your coordinates. Wang Feng transmitted. In a place very far away. After that god was defeated by you, the deity's seal on my body disappeared. At the same time, some of the other clans of that god disappeared, and some were exiled. Once the deity seal of a god disappears, if no other god accepts it, they will be exiled. They are exiled in the universe. Only those with good aptitudes will be absorbed into the god realms of other gods. Wang Feng didn't know this. With your aptitude, logically speaking, it's not bad. Could it be that no other god took a fancy to you? No. So I was exiled. Clans that no other god needs will be sent to the other universes below, and their life and death are up to the heavens. Wang Fengxin's heart moved slightly. I can return to the universe I was in before, but the special fragment you gave me made me not want to go back. That's because I saw a wider world from the fragment. After that God's God domain was shattered, I came to a small universe and began to study the power contained in this fragment with the knowledge and power I knew. Until now, I seem to have found something. What is it? Wang Feng asked. He was curious about what this guy could find out from the fragment of the will of the universe. In fact, he didn't need to ask, because he had already studied the fragment through the origin of the primordial universe. It's a power that can overturn the universe. However, this power is incomplete. Fortunately, I was able to analyze a few pieces of information through this fragment. These pieces of information seem to represent a specific location. There are 3 in total. I have arrived at one of them. And I found this fragment. This fragment has the same power. Hearing this, Wang Fengxin's heart moved. There was a fragment of the will of the galaxy. The will of the galaxy belonged to Mo Tiance. If Carl could find the second will fragment, it must have come from Mo Tiance. It seems that Mo Tiance is finally willing to show himself. Where are you now? Wang Feng asked. Chapter 1891. It's on a very desolate planet. This universe seems to be very desolate. I've searched countless galaxies, but I haven't found a single planet with life. Soon after, Carl sent over the exact location information. It was a place Wang Feng had never heard of. However, for a universal-level life form, as long as he knew the general information, he could basically use all kinds of methods to reach it, unless it was a godly universe with powerful restrictions. His mind changed. Wang Feng immediately disappeared from the ancestral realm, unknown planet. When Wang Feng arrived, he found that it was indeed as Carl said. This planet was very desolate. In fact, the moment he arrived, he had already sensed this universe. It was also extremely desolate. Carl didn't say anything. When Wang Feng appeared, Carl was sitting cross-legged on an orange-yellow mountain peak without a single blade of grass or tree. Seeing Wang Feng appear, Carl said respectfully, "This is the second fragment I found." As he spoke, he opened his palm. A fragment of willpower lay quietly in his hand. Wang Feng glanced at it. It was indeed a fragment of the galaxy willpower. Immediately after, Wang Feng's eyes flickered and locked onto Carl. At this moment, the primordial willpower enveloped him. In the blink of an eye. Thus, he deduced everything that happened to the latter. Everything was true. Although Carl was already very advanced, he wasn't a universal-level life form. With the current power of the primordial origin, Wang Feng could understand it with a glance. There was no error at all. Unless there was an existence like the supreme god in the godly universe to cover up his life path. Simply put, it was to obscure the universe karma contained in the other party. However, this was obviously impossible. Where is the location of the second fragment? Wang Feng asked. 10,000 Dragons Universe, Carl said. Oh, Wang Feng was slightly startled. It's actually here. You know about the 10,000 Dragons Universe? Carl asked. Wang Feng nodded slightly. This emotiance was interesting. Where is the location of the third fragment? Wang Feng asked again. In the Crimson God Universe, Carl said again. Crimson God Universe. Wasn't this the universe where the Crimson God Fox Emperor was? The universe ruled by the Crimson God Fox. Then let's go to the 10,000 Dragons Universe first. Wang Feng narrowed his eyes. Emotiance seemed to be up to no good. 10,000 Dragons Universe. It was different from the God System Universe. Of course, it couldn't be compared to the Godly System Universe. However, this universe was ruled by the dragon race. Just like the Crimson God Fox Emperor, in the words of the Godly System Universe, they belonged to the category of indigenous gods. However, the 10,000 Dragons Universe was clearly much stronger than the universes ruled by the indigenous heaven gods. This could be seen from the appearance of the five-color divine dragon that had descended upon the dragon god realm. The five-color divine dragon was a heavenly god-level existence. Moreover, it possessed the true will of the universe. He was extremely powerful. Wang Feng estimated that the ruler of the 10,000 Dragons universe was at least at the over-god level. In other words, the overall strength of the 10,000 Dragons universe was equivalent to a faction of gods in a godly system universe. It was not difficult to reach the 10,000 Dragons universe. When the five-color divine dragon had appeared and he had fled, he had already exposed the coordinates of the 10,000 Dragons cosmos. Wang Feng used the Grand Mist origin source to deduce the coordinates and easily analyze them. You can stay here and continue studying the second fragment. Wang Feng said to Carl, if you can still research it and control the power within it, it'll be considered an opportunity for you. Of course, let me remind you, the probability of that is very low. Wang Feng left after he finished speaking. Then, Wang Feng quickly calculated the location of the 10,000 Dragons universe. No, more accurately, he calculated the location where the five-color divine dragon had left. If I go directly, the location where I descend will be where the five-color divine dragon returned. Wang Feng pondered for a moment. If he went directly, he might have to face many experts of the 10,000 Dragons universe. Forget it, it's just the dragon race. A cold glint flashed across Wang Feng's eyes. Wang Feng was basically certain about the fragments that Carl had obtained. They were left behind by Mo Tiance. His motive was very simple. Mo Tiance knew that his avatar had been killed by Wang Feng. At the same time, he must know that Wang Feng had the fragments. The reason he left behind the fragments of will in his main body was so that he could search for these fragments. His motive was to kill with a borrowed knife. However, Wang Feng gave the fragments to Carl for a second reason. In fact, he wanted to use Carl as bait to lure Mo Tiance out. If the fragments were with Wang Feng, Mo Tiance would not dare to act rashly. Once Wang Feng noticed it, his outcome would be miserable. However, this guy was very smart. He knew that after the fragments were with Carl, he might have known that Wang Feng wanted to use Carl as bait to lure him out. Therefore, he beat Wang Feng at his own game and immediately arranged the remaining fragments to lure Wang Feng out. Otherwise, when Wang Feng used the primordial origin to deduce the fragments, he did not obtain any information about the remaining fragments. Instead, he gave them to Carl, and Carl studied them. These were obviously the fragments that Mo Tiance arranged later. You place the fragments in the 10,000 Dragons universe. It seems like you want to borrow the power of the 10,000 Dragons universe, Wang Feng sneered. This guy did not belong to the deity universe's faction. Although he was a universe-level life form, he was at most a native heavenly god. It was impossible for him to borrow the power of the deity universe. The deity universe looked down on native heavenly gods. How could they be used by a mere Mo Tiance? Even the weakest deity universe's faction would not accept them. Therefore, he could only borrow the power of other universes. From a certain perspective, this 10,000 Dragons universe was indeed a very good target to borrow from. The fragments are very powerful. Moreover, the galaxy will itself is very powerful. This thing is very attractive to any universe-level life form. Even if it is just a fragment, the deity universe might not be interested in the fragments. However, to the 10,000 Dragons universe, it is valuable enough. As long as I come to this 10,000 Dragons universe, the fragments will be able to detect me. It is time to get rid of you, Wang Feng murmured. He came to the Dragon God realm, where the five-colored divine dragon left. Then, he drew a line across the void. In an instant, a light hole appeared in the sky. Vaguely, he could feel an intense and majestic aura from the light hole. Without any hesitation, Wang Feng stepped into the cave, turned into a ray of light, and disappeared into the cave of light. Chapter 1892. The 10,000 Dragons Universe. The starry sky was like a piece of cloth. Many shining star sources floated in this vast space like pearls. The resplendent golden color was the only key here. This was the Golden Nebula, one of the five-color dragon systems in the 10,000 Dragons universe. A five-colored golden dragon, whose head could not be seen, floated quietly in this nebula. Beside him were several majestic men and women with dragon horns on their heads. Longing, is it as you said? Is this native heavenly god really that powerful? Among the men and women, a man with the calmest temperament and slightly older appearance asked slowly. The five-colored golden dragon immediately let out a soft dragon roar. Although his body was huge, he seemed to have suffered significant injuries. He couldn't even transform into a simple human form. However, the latter could tell what the dragon was trying to say from this dragon roar. He's stronger than I imagined. Dragon Master, that native heavenly god, is so powerful. What god system universe and the god war agreement? We didn't want to provoke him and cause trouble. Let's just give up on the Dragon God realm. Beside the man called Dragon Lord, A woman with a clear face and purple dragon horns on her head said slowly. Longing dealt with it in a timely manner, Dragon Master said indifferently. He wanted to destroy the dragon god realm. Unfortunately, that native heavenly god hadn't arrived yet. Long Ing seemed to be dealing with that native heavenly god's subordinates. That's why he provoked him. Although he dealt with it in a timely manner, he still provoked him. However, that native heavenly god should be busy with the god war right now. It's unlikely that he'll come into contact with our 10,000 Dragons universe. Even if he wants to cause trouble, he should wait until after the god war. The Dragon Master of the 5-color dragon system, one of the many experts in the 10,000 Dragons universe, exhaled slowly. After the god war, he'll either die or we won't have anything to do with it. If he wins, although the possibility isn't high, we'll find an opportunity to apologize in person. After saying that, Dragon Master paused and asked the man beside him, "What did the Emperor Lord say?" The Emperor Lord said that we can deal with it however we want. Dragon Master nodded slightly. That's true. The Emperor Lord seems to be busy with the remnant Will and our princess. He probably doesn't have time to deal with the Dragon God realm. Even though the Golden Dragon King has a weak bloodline of the Emperor, it's still not enough. But in the 10,000 Dragons universe, there are too many dragons with imperial bloodlines. Even the Golden Dragon King isn't one of them. Moreover, he had only sensed the 10,000 dragons cosmos after so many years. His strength was too weak. I didn't expect that the Emperor Lord would give him a 10,000 dragon pearl. The 10,000 dragons pearl is such a precious item. Even among the dragon descendants of the Emperor Lord, there aren't many who have such an honor. The 5-color dragon Lord shook his head slightly. It's possible. After all, he is the Emperor Lord's bloodline descendant when he was young. That's true. The Monarch Lord was a playboy when he was young. I wonder how many bloodlines he left behind. It's a pity that there's only one who can truly inherit the Monarch Lord's bloodline. All right, how's that Princess Silvermoon? The 5-color dragon Lord suddenly asked as his heart skipped a beat. The Sovereign Lord is very fond of her. It seems like not only is her bloodline pure, but she also has great potential. The Sovereign Lord is personally nurturing her. In the Candle God Nebula, he was already the Emperor Lord's successor. However, she is still young, and there are a few dragons who have different opinions. I'm afraid this Princess Silvermoon won't be able to survive. The Dragon Lord couldn't help but sneer. The Sovereign Lord's lifespan is about to end. He is about to face the 100th initial wheel tribulation. Those old things naturally think that the Sovereign Lord won't be able to pass it. What's laughable is that if the Sovereign Lord dies, the 10,000 Dragons universe will become the 10,000 Dragons universe. The 10,000 Dragons universe has lost the only person who can challenge the Godly System universe, and the entire universe will be swallowed by the Godly System universe. Who knows, our 10,000 Dragons race might become the exclusive mounts of those dogs hit gods in the future. At this time, they are still coveting the position of the Sovereign Lord and leading the 10,000 Dragons universe. What a joke. The 5-color dragon Lord waved his sleeves angrily. Countless nebulas were stirred up in the starry sky. Forget it. Long Ying, return to the true dragon pool and recuperate. You don't have to worry about that native heavenly god for the time being. The Dragon Lord said to the 5-colored golden dragon. Many thanks, Dragon Lord. After saying that, the Dragon Lord turned into a ray of colorful light and disappeared from this place with a few people beside him. The true dragon pool. I didn't expect to make a trip to the dragon god realm. Although I was injured, it's not bad to be able to recuperate in the true dragon pool. The 5-colored golden dragon, called Long Ying, gradually shrank. Before, it was difficult to measure his head and tail, but now he was only a few hundred meters long. He first wandered in the starry sky for a while. Amen. Even if that native heavenly god really wants to shine here, it should be after the god battle. After saying that, he leisurely left and flew toward a huge star in the distance. After an unknown period of time, it was as if a hole had been poked in the starry sky. A hole of light slowly appeared. A figure slowly walked out of it. This is the 10,000 Dragons universe. The starry sky is very beautiful. The figure was naturally Wang Feng. There is no killing intent. Did those dragons not expect me to come? Wang Feng looked at the quiet surroundings and was a little surprised. He was prepared for a big battle. He thought that the five-color divine dragon would place a large number of dragons in the 10,000 dragons universe where he left. This was to prevent him, a native heavenly god, from following. He's looking down on me. Wang Feng could not help but shake his head with a smile. It's so quiet. It's hard for me to make a move. If there were dragons preparing to deal with him, Wang Feng would not hesitate to capture a few of them to find out more about the 10,000 dragons universe. If there was no dragon, he would have to find one himself. There's a star not far away, and it's a planet of life. There should be dragons there, right? Let's go take a look. Wang Feng was thinking. Suddenly, his heart stirred. In the distance, several figures suddenly flew over. It's humans. No, it's dragons. They've just transformed into humans. And there seems to be a luxurious carriage. Wang Feng looked into the distance. In the starry sky in the distance. First, several figures cleared the way. There were a total of 4 figures. Each of them was wearing a sky blue robe embroidered with clouds and dragons. Their faces were very cold and threatening. Each of them had a dragon horn on their head. This was clearly the symbol of a dragon's transformation. Interestingly, the 4 of them were standing on the head of a huge water-blue 5-clawed dragon. Behind these 4 dragons was an extremely luxurious dragon carriage. They looked quite extraordinary. They should be dragons of high status. Wait, the aura of the Great Path. There's the aura of the Great Path in your carriage? Wang Fengxin's heart stirred again. Chapter 1893. The creation jade disc could sense the power of the Great Tao. However, Wang Feng did not expect to encounter it as soon as he arrived at the 10,000 Dragons universe. Should I attack directly, or? Wang Feng pondered for a moment. He had just arrived and did not know anything about the 10,000 Dragons universe. Although he could obtain the power of the Great Tao from the Dragon Chariot, he would definitely alarm the 10,000 Dragons universe. The strongest person in the 10,000 Dragons universe, the mystic Dragon Emperor, was at least a supreme god. Now that he had just arrived, the 5-color divine dragon did not seem to expect him to appear. In other words, the 10,000 Dragons universe did not know he was here. Attacking directly is like killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. The power of the Great Tao in the Dragon Chariot is only a small part. There must be more power of the Great Tao in the 10,000 Dragons universe. Wang Feng calmed himself down. There is no hurry. Mo Tiance has not been found yet, and there is still that intent fragment. There is no hurry. Thinking of this, Wang Fengxin's heart stirred. His fingertips moved slightly, and he gently tapped his forehead. In an instant, 2 golden dragon horns appeared on his forehead. The aura of the dragon race slowly spread from Wang Feng's body. His appearance was not much different from those Dragonians. I cannot let go of the power of the Great Tao in the Dragon Chariot. Wang Fengxin's heart stirred again. His face began to turn pale and weak, and wounds began to appear on his body. Then, he quietly floated in the starry sky. His body began to gradually transform into a gigantic dragon form. His body was formed by the will of the heavenly embryo. Wang Feng's transformation was based on the dragons of the primitive universe recorded in the Bell of Primal Chaos. It was not difficult. He had the genetic secrets of the dragon race. Although this was only one of his clones, all 3 bodies were him. There was no difference. With the genetic secrets of the primitive universe's dragon race, Wang Feng could not only create the dragon race, but he could also transform into the dragon race. He could even have the various abilities and talents of the dragon race. For example, the 4 divine dragons that Wang Feng had created. As long as Wang Feng wanted, he could have their abilities. Stop! At this moment, the 4 silhouettes on the 4 enormous water dragons abruptly shouted at the enormous dragons beneath them to pull them away. A moment later, a clear voice came from the dragon chariot. Why did you stop? Your Highness, we have reached the boundary of the 5-colored nebula. In front of us should be one of the five-colored nebula's subordinate planets, planet Golden Dragon. However, there seems to be an injured dragon in front of us. Should we interfere? A man on the head of the water dragon asked respectfully. Injured? How could there be an injured dragon in the eternal Golden Dragon star? Given the five-color Dragon Master's character, he normally loves his people the most. The dragon chariot remained silent for a while, appearing somewhat confused. I've heard from the Emperor Lord. It seemed that something had happened in the dragon god realm of the Golden Dragon King, who had been reunited with the Emperor Master in the Myriad Dragons universe. It just so happened that the Emperor Lord had tasked the five-color Dragon Master with the task of observing the dragon god realm. For some unknown reason, the dragon god realm provoked a native heavenly god. A native heavenly god. The dragon carriage was slightly startled. Then a chuckle sounded. Then this five-color dragon lord is really pitiful. This wouldn't be easy to deal with, right? However, ordinary native heavenly gods shouldn't be able to provoke the 10,000 dragons universe. That's true, but the native heavenly god they provoked isn't ordinary, right? Tell me about the rumors you've heard. This subordinate heard that the native heavenly god they provoked was the one who issued a holy letter of challenge to the god system's universe. It's very chaotic over there. I think the five-color Dragon Master is having a headache right now. Now that there are injured dragons in the starry sky, I think that native heavenly god might have already come to us. Stop, stop, stop. The voice from the dragon carriage was still chuckling. Look at this starry sky. Do you see any energy fluctuations? How many changes have there been in the eternal Golden Dragon star? This, I don't think so. Then that's it. What you said is just a guess. The dragon god realm provoked that native heavenly god. Given the five-color Dragon Master's character, he most likely abandoned the dragon god realm. That native heavenly god wouldn't have the time to come to the 10,000 dragons universe to cause trouble. The god war of the god system's universe is very important. That native heavenly god might be busy dealing with the god war right now. Why would he come to us? This injured dragon is quite strange. Hearing this, the dragon man paused for a moment. Does your highness mean that there's a trap? But I didn't sense anything. Even with your strength, you didn't sense anything. It seems that if this dragon isn't really injured, then he's not simple. The voice from the dragon carriage pondered for a moment. Go ahead and test him. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be many dragons who know about my trip. Even the five-color Dragon Master shouldn't know. Then this subordinate will test it out. After receiving the order, the dragon man immediately urged the giant dragon under his feet to fly toward the dragon that didn't look very big. Yinhua, don't go too far. A voice came from the dragon carriage. The dragon man nodded slightly. It's the aura of my race. As soon as he got close, the water-blue, five-clawed giant dragon under his feet spoke in a low voice. Oh, little blue, are you sure you sensed it? Long Yinhua immediately asked. Nonsense. Your strength is on par with mine. If I can sense it, can't you sense it yourself? Moreover, it's rare to see such a pure dragon aura. The water-blue giant dragon replied unhappily. Long Yinhua closed his eyes and sensed for a few seconds. They were dragon companions and had the same position. Their strength was indeed similar. The aura he sensed was also very pure dragon aura. The injuries on his body should be caused by some kind of origin energy. Moreover, it's a very powerful origin energy. Our dragon race's usual medicines have no effect on it. With such serious injuries, he's still alive. It seems that this dragon is very powerful, the water-blue giant dragon said. However, I can't sense which part of our 10,000 dragons universe he belongs to. Although there's a very pure dragon aura on him, he obviously doesn't belong to any of our branches. How do you plan to test him? Just attack him directly. If there's a trap, he'll definitely counterattack. If there's no trap, his dragon body won't care about these injuries, Long Yinhua said. The injuries on his body should be caused by some kind of origin energy. Moreover, it's a very powerful origin energy. Our dragon race's usual medicines have no effect on it. With such serious injuries, he's still alive. It seems that this dragon is very powerful, the water blue giant said. However, I can't sense which part of our 10,000 dragons universe he belongs to. Although there's a very pure dragon aura on him, he obviously doesn't belong to any of our branches. How do you plan to test him? Just attack him directly. If there's a trap, he'll definitely counterattack. If there's no trap, his dragon body won't care about these injuries, Long Yinhua said. Chapter 1894. As a noble crystal dragon in the 10,000 dragons universe. Although his physical body was not his forte. However, Long Yinhua did not expect that his half-full attack would be easily deflected by an injured and mysterious dragon. Even his weapon had been shattered. One had to know that this dragon spear was forged from the 10,000 dragons universe's most powerful origin, true gold. It was made from his dragon heart and dragon blood that had been nourished for hundreds of years. Why the F***CK did it just break? What kind of dragon's physical body is this? Long Huayin was shocked. The other party did not react at all when he was injured. It was obvious that he only relied on his physical body. It doesn't seem like there's a trick. This dragon might be very powerful. At the very least, he should be at the level of a clan leader. However, I know of the few dragon lords in the 10,000 dragons cosmos. Long Huayin knew that he could not make a judgment. He could only return to the dragon carriage and report this matter immediately. Your Highness, this dragon is currently unconscious. Just his physical body alone is so powerful, Long Huayin immediately said after reporting. In our 10,000 dragons universe, there are no records of his physical body. I don't know. The dragon carriage was silent for a long time. Then, a clear and pleasant voice slowly sounded. He should be a descendant of the dragon ancestor. When the 10,000 dragons universe was born, the dragon ancestor's bloodline spread throughout the universe. Countless origin energy accompanied this bloodline and scattered all over the 10,000 dragons universe. But after a few generations, these powerful dragon ancestors with the dragon ancestor's bloodline died in battle. Only a few survived and opened the 10,000 dragons universe's glorious era. At the same time, on the bloodline bestowed by the dragon ancestor, through various methods, many more powerful dragon clans were born. However, there were fewer and fewer dragon clans with the dragon ancestor's bloodline. The Emperor Lord was a true dragon with 70% of the dragon ancestor's bloodline. He slowly cultivated. After that, the bloodline changed and the power changed. The dragon ancestor's bloodline gradually disappeared. The 10,000 dragons universe opened up the dragon origin gene and began to strengthen the existing bloodline through various methods. At this point, the owner of the voice seemed to realize that he seemed to have said too much. So, this dragon is a descendant of the dragon ancestor's bloodline? Long Yinhua confirmed with astonishment. From what you've encountered, that's the case. Those who possess the bloodline of the dragon ancestor possess an innately powerful physical body. Even the king of the Golden Dragon Clan and the Seven-Color Dragon Clan, the Golden Brilliance True Dragon, has yet to reach that level. Moreover, the Golden Brilliance True Dragon itself needs a powerful dragon origin to evolve to its strongest state. At the same time, I changed it to dragon scales made of 7-colored astral essence. Only then would I be able to shatter your dragon spear. Long Yinhua suddenly understood. Let's save him first. Within the dragon carriage, the voice rang out once more. Bring this dragon into the world of my dragon carriage. I will take a closer look. Continue forward. When you pass by the Golden Dragon Eternal Star, there is no need to mention this to the 7-Color Dragon Lord. Long Yinhua immediately nodded. Then, together with another dragon, they lifted the enormous dragon into the enormous dragon carriage. Behind this dragon carriage, it wasn't like an ordinary carriage. It was a rather vast small world. The carriage they were pulling was nothing more than an object to cover this small world. Wang Feng had been awake the entire time. He had disguised himself so that he could enter the dragon carriage and sense the power of the great Tao without alerting the 10,000 dragons universe. In order to enter the dragon carriage safely, he had used his normal body to shatter the weapon of the dragon that had come to test him. After all, if he didn't show any special traits, the other party might not be interested in him, let alone save him. However, Wang Feng didn't expect to hear some interesting information, because he had been awake the entire time. He could clearly sense the communication between them. It was just an ordinary mental communication using dragon voices. To Wang Feng, it was very simple. He could use the primordial origin to decipher it. Dragon ancestor? This 10,000 dragons universe was created by a dragon ancestor? What's up with this dragon ancestor? Wang Fengxin muttered to himself. Previously, he had seen the dragons in the dragon god realm who had been strengthened by the 10,000 dragons pearl and that 5-color divine dragon. Wang Feng had thought that this 10,000 dragons universe and the dragons of the primitive universe should have a very close relationship. But this 10,000 dragons universe was created by a dragon ancestor? However, back then, when the primitive universe was destroyed, it was impossible for any life to survive. The only one who survived was the Origin Tribulation Divine King. This dragon ancestor. Forget it, let's not care about that for now. Let's first sense the power of the great Dao. Wang Feng shook his head secretly. According to what he had heard, that dragon ancestor was long gone. So, there was no need to care too much. The power of the great Dao was the purpose of his trip to the 10,000 dragons universe. After entering the dragon carriage, Wang Feng didn't expect that there would be a small world inside. These 4 dragons were dragging a small world in the starry sky. Fortunately, after entering the dragon carriage, Wang Feng accurately sensed the location of the power of the great Dao. There was more than one. There were 2. One of them was in the dragon carriage, on the owner of the voice. Soon, Wang Feng felt a cool aura slowly coming from the top of his head. It's the aura of the origin. This feeling seems to be somewhat similar to the Frozen End, one of the 4 true dragons of the primitive universe. Wang Feng immediately sensed it. To be precise, it wasn't a pure aura of the origin. It seemed to be an ability formed after a half-incomplete origin merged with the dragon race's bloodline. This cool aura was like mist and dew, containing a very strong recovery ability. The dragon race in this dragon carriage world should have a very high status. It clearly has the aura of the great Dao, but it doesn't seem to have merged with it. Wang Feng followed this aura and slowly opened his eyes. What entered his eyes was a woman in an ice blue fairy dress floating above his head. The woman had 2 short ice blue dragon horns on her head. Her face was beautiful, and her figure was graceful. Her body looked like a human's. There wasn't much difference between her and a normal human female. However, her exposed palms were covered with a layer of faint ice blue dragon scales. Her neck, which should have been snow white, also had ice blue dragon scales. But it didn't look strange. Instead, it had a strange beauty. I woke up just like that. Could it be that my strength has increased again? The dragoness muttered softly. She seemed to be surprised. Then, she nodded to herself. Looks like it's true. You are? Wang Feng's bewildering dragon eyes seemed to be drunk. There was a hint of confusion in his eyes as he let out a dragon roar. Starting from Douluo, address. Starting from Douluo, /read/105821/ starting for Douluo. Download address. Starting from Douluo to clock out. /read/105821/ for the convenience of reading next time. You can click on the collect button below to record this time. You can see it when you open the bookshelf next time. If you like Starting from Douluo, please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 1895. Me, the dragon girl smiled and said indifferently, I am Jean Ling from the Crystal Dragon race of the 10,000 Dragons universe. I passed by this 7-colored nebula and happened to meet the injured you. In the 10,000 Dragons universe, I have never seen a dragon like you. Since you are awake, shouldn't you tell me who you are? My world is not too big. If you can transform into a human form, it won't be too late to talk to me after you transform into a human form. The dragon girl who called herself Jean Ling gently waved her sleeve and summoned a chair that seemed to be made of ice. Then, she sat on the chair with interest. She supported her chin with both hands and sized up Wang Feng. 10,000 Dragons Universe? Wang Feng suddenly said, I didn't expect that I would actually come here. Oh. Jean Ling put down one hand and knocked on the table, as if she was listening attentively. I came from another universe. Wang Feng said casually. In that universe, although the dragon race is strong, in that vast universe, they're only one of the billions of living beings. Although they are strong, they're not the best. In addition to the dragon race, there are countless other powerful races that fought together in that universe. The casualties were disastrous. When the universe calamity came, countless living beings died. The powerful dragon race was born as slaves under the cycle of reincarnation. The order of the universe was reconstructed. The heavenly dragon race could only be enslaved as livestock. Wang Feng's eyes were deep, with some vicissitudes and loneliness. His low voice seemed to be telling the ancient and unbearable past. In fact, he was talking about the history of the dragon race in the desolate universe. In the primal chaos, the pictures of billions of living beings were recorded, which also represented a part of the history. However, the history that Wang Feng deduced from the primordial chaos source might not necessarily be true. But the general situation would not change. The primitive universe was quite different from the myths and legends that Wang Feng had heard of on Earth. There might even be a big difference. Jean Ling did not say anything. She just stared at Wang Feng's eyes. Suddenly, she turned her head. After a while, she turned back and nodded slightly. The 10,000 Dragons universe is a universe dominated by my dragon race. There are countless powerful dragon race here. You seem to have heard of this universe. How did it come about? She didn't directly express that she believed Wang Feng's words, but she didn't say that she didn't believe him either. I've also forgotten. Wang Feng said, the reconstructed order of the cosmos caused our dragon race to fall apart. The powerful dragon race were either slaughtered, enslaved, or died in the Aeon calamity for the sake of protecting the dragon race. As for us, the dragon race that was struggling at death's door, we were unable to endure the new order of the cosmos and left this cosmos. After that, we entered the endless cosmos to wander about. Until one time, I met a fellow clansman in an unknown part of the starry sky. He told me there was a universe called the 10,000 Dragons universe, which was the universe of the dragon race. He told me to go to the 10,000 Dragons cosmos. However, I couldn't find him even after searching for a very long time. Later on, I met an expert. Unable to defeat his opponent, he executed an origin forbidden technique and burned his true blood to escape. After I woke up, this is the time. Wang Feng said simply. What he had said earlier were all stories that he had deduced. It was impossible for the other party to determine whether it was true or false. Naturally, the rest of the story was made up as well. It would be difficult for the other party to tell. The 10,000 Dragons cosmos was so huge, and there were many dragons. There were also many dragons who had run to other universes. The other party couldn't tell at all. Is that so? Jean Ling pondered for a moment and suddenly asked, the fellow clansman you met is a dragon from our 10,000 Dragons cosmos? Is he very powerful? He's stronger than me. I chatted with him for some time, but we didn't know each other well. Later on, he had something to do and left. He only told me the coordinates of the 10,000 Dragons cosmos. After Wang Feng finished speaking, he added, isn't he a dragon from your 10,000 Dragons cosmos? All right. He claimed to be a descendant of the dragon ancestor and said that he was looking for information about the dragon race in other universes. A descendant of the dragon ancestor? Jean Ling frowned slightly. She glanced at Wang Feng. There were many descendants of the dragon ancestor who had established the 10,000 Dragons cosmos. However, that was many years ago. It was impossible to estimate where the descendants of the dragon ancestor had gone. There were no records of them at all. The only ones recorded were the few emperors who had created the 10,000 Dragons universe and made great contributions to the 10,000 Dragons universe. Not to mention her. Even if the mystic dragon emperor was here, it would be difficult to determine. The strength of the dragon race is mysterious. What he said might not be false, but I'm afraid it's not completely true. Jinling thought. That was normal. He had come to an unfamiliar universe and was seriously injured. How could he casually tell others about his origin? Then what do you plan to do next? Jinling said slowly. Our 10,000 Dragons cosmos is a world dominated by the dragon race. If you want to live peacefully in this universe, it's very simple. However, your bloodline doesn't belong to any of the dragon races. Those powerful dragon races might not take you in. However, the 10,000 Dragons cosmos is currently dominated by the 10,000 Dragons Emperor. The current emperor is a wise ruler of the dragon race. Even if you have the identity of an ordinary dragon race member, you can still live peacefully in this universe. There will definitely be unfairness. However, it's usually difficult to encounter it in an ordinary life. Jinling smiled slightly and looked at him. The emperor is tyrannical? Wang Feng thought. I thought it was a god tyrannical. It seemed that the mystic dragon emperor of this 10,000 Dragons cosmos should be the strongest expert. In terms of strength, he should belong to the supreme god of the divine system cosmos. Of course, in this vast 10,000 Dragons cosmos, there might be other experts. After all, the dragon ancestor should not be a simple person. Wang Feng pondered for a moment and suddenly looked at Jinling. He looked at the latter until she frowned slightly. Then, he slowly said, I sense a very unique power aura on your body. I wonder what it is. He said in a flat tone. However, the latter was shocked. A unique power aura. Jinling was slightly stunned. You can sense it? No. Can you sense what kind of power aura it is? A very strong power aura. It seems to be able to easily change the life form of the dragon race. Wang Feng said slowly. I also had such a powerful power in our universe. However, the one on your body is weaker. Hearing this, Jinling stood up from her seat. You can actually sense it. She looked at Wang Feng in disbelief. Her first reaction was that it was impossible. She had been absorbing the power of the 10,000 Dragons Pearl for more than 100 years. The 10,000 Dragons Pearl had already merged with her dragon origin. The power in it had almost completely transferred to her body. However, she was currently unable to control that power. It was still hidden and sealed in the dragon origin in her body. Even those dragon sovereigns could not sense it. Even when she met the emperor could not sense it. How did he sense it? Chapter 1896. Jinling looked at this mysterious dragon in amazement. The 10,000 Dragons Pearl was extremely unique in the entire 10,000 Dragons universe. Its origin could no longer be traced. However, the 10,000 Dragons universe had many 10,000 Dragons Pearls. The 10,000 Dragons Pearl contained extremely powerful energy. How powerful was it exactly? Almost all the dragon race experts in the 10,000 Dragons universe had the 10,000 Dragons Pearl. Those who did not have it, very few could stand at the peak of the 10,000 Dragons universe. The more 10,000 Dragons Pearls one had, the stronger one would be. However, the special thing about the 10,000 Dragons Pearl was that no matter how many one had, if one could not comprehend the power contained within it, it would be useless. It was extremely mysterious. However, if one could comprehend the profundity within, they would definitely become a powerful expert. At least, this was the rule in the 10,000 Dragons universe. Therefore, the 10,000 Dragons Pearl was naturally very precious. Unless one was as powerful as the mystic dragon emperor, once other dragons obtained the 10,000 Dragons Pearl, they would not easily tell others. At the same time, they would hide the 10,000 Dragons Pearl and slowly comprehend its profundity. In the 10,000 Dragons universe, this item was too precious and would be coveted easily. Jinling did not expect that the 10,000 Dragons Pearl in her body would be exposed just like that. This guy is not simple. Jinling pondered for a few seconds. At this moment, Wang Feng said, Is this the power that the 10,000 Dragons universe relies on? Not entirely. Jean Ling said indifferently. She could have pretended not to know that she had been discovered. However, this was too special. She could not react for a moment. It was too late to pretend not to know. Therefore, she might as well admit it. Then is there a lot? Wang Feng asked again. I did not sense the aura of this power from the dragons outside. Jean Ling smiled faintly. Not a lot, not a little. By the way, you did not answer my question. How did you sense this power? After saying that, she looked straight at Wang Feng. Wang Feng could sense a murderous intent hidden deep within the eyes of this female dragon race being. His heart skipped a beat. As expected, the 10,000 Dragons Pearl was also a treasure in the 10,000 Dragons universe. Wang Feng was not sure if each 10,000 Dragons Pearl contained the great Dao power of the creation Jade Disc. If that was the case, then the Myriad Dragon Pearl was indeed a first-rate treasure. The power of the great Dao in the Good Fortune Jade Disc was the great Dao that countless lives in the universe yearned for. That was the origin of the universe at that time. It contained endless mysteries and great power. That's because there's also that sort of power in our universe. Wang Feng's expression remained unchanged as he said calmly. As for me, I've come into contact with this kind of power before, so I'm no stranger to it. I can sense it within a certain distance. This sort of power is extremely unique. Even if it is hidden, it is impossible to completely conceal the aura within it. Jean Ling's expression changed slightly, and she looked at him strangely. She was certain that the Dragon Clan did not exist in the 10,000 Dragons universe. Even someone as powerful as the Mystic Dragon Emperor could not sense the power of the 10,000 Dragon Pearl. However, the Mystic Dragon Emperor did have many 10,000 Dragon Pearls. Otherwise, the Emperor wouldn't have given the Dragon God Realm's Golden Dragon King a Myriad Dragon Pearl when he came to the Myriad Dragons universe to acknowledge his ancestors. However, the 10,000 Dragons Pearl was also divided into many different grades. Naturally, the Mystic Dragon Emperor didn't give it the best. The origin of the 10,000 Dragons Pearl was unknown, but its grades were clearly divided in the entire 10,000 Dragons universe. The worst grade only contained the power of dragonization in the form of a thin thread. This was because the powerful energy within the 10,000 Dragons Pearl could cause a dragon to undergo earth-shaking changes and reach a higher realm. Therefore, this kind of power was called dragonization in the 10,000 Dragons universe. A slightly better grade contained the power of dragonization in the form of a thin mist. A slightly better grade was the power of dragonization in the form of a dewdrop. All the way up, it contained the strongest power. Currently, the strongest 10,000 Dragons Pearl was the Mystic Dragon Divine Pearl. It was rumored that it contained the power of dragonization in the form of a pool. It was also because of this 10,000 Dragons Divine Pearl that the current Mystic Dragon Emperor existed. From what you're saying, Jean Ling's eyes flashed. Not only can you sense this 10,000 Dragons Pearl, but you also seem to understand this power very well. Of course I do. Wang Feng narrowed his eyes. Not only do I understand it, but I can also ignite this power. Since you saved my life, in return, I can ignite this power in your body. In our universe, this power is the power of the universe's great Dao. It contains a powerful force that can create the universe. However, this power is not something that anyone can use. It's dormant and needs to be touched or touched by external forces to be fully activated. Otherwise, it's just an inanimate object. It's useless even if you obtain it. Jean Ling smiled noncommittally. She would not believe such words. This power is called the 10,000 Dragons Pearl in our universe, Jean Ling said slowly. It might not be a power that you're familiar with. There's no hurry now. How about this? We're going to ruin to look for this 10,000 Dragons Pearl. What do you plan to do next? If you don't, can you come with me? Let me see if you really understand this power. Ruin? Wang Feng was slightly taken aback. Looking for the 10,000 Dragons Pearl? That's great. Wang Fengxin said. At this moment, the carriage outside suddenly stopped. Wang Feng instantly sensed that there were dozens of huge dragons surrounding the chariot. So it's niece Jean Ling of the Crystal Dragon race. You're free to come to my seven-color nebula today. Why didn't you come down and stay for a few days when you pass by this golden eternal dragon star? If your father knew about this, he would definitely be angry. Those who don't know might think that us old fellows are bullying you juniors. A hearty voice came from outside. Inside the carriage, Jean Ling's expression changed slightly. Wang Feng could clearly feel that this dragon girl seemed to be in some kind of trouble. There's also a dragon outside? Wang Feng asked. Is it someone from your race? From your tone, your relationship is not bad? Looking at her, how could their relationship be not bad? Wang Feng deliberately asked this because he wanted to see how this dragon girl would deal with it. Oomph. Jean Ling chuckled, but did not say anything. In this 10,000 dragons universe, the relationship between the various dragon races was unified and harmonious from the perspective of the entire universe. However, that was in the external situation. Internally, that was not the case. There were many dragons in the 10,000 dragons universe, and each of them had different personalities. This also caused the various dragon races to fight against each other. The seven-color dragon race was one of the largest races in the 10,000 dragons universe. Chapter 1897. The reason? Naturally, it was because the seven-color dragon clan had 7 different 10,000 dragon pearls. 7 seven-color dragon clans were born from the same root. Unlike the other dragon clans, the seven-color dragon clan's 7 great dragon clans were very united because of the same root. The seven-color dragon lord was very powerful. Apart from the 7 10,000 dragon pearls that affected the seven-color dragon lord's foundation, the seven-color dragon lord had 3 other 10,000 dragon pearls. Whether it was status or strength, the seven-color dragon clan was top-notch in the entire 10,000 dragons universe. On the other hand, the Crystal Dragon clan was a small clan. However, due to the unique genes of the Crystal Dragon clan, the dragons they produced were all naturally beautiful and had special physiques. They were the partners of countless dragon clans. Most importantly, the Mystic Dragon Emperor had a very favored dragon concubine. She was a crystal dragon. Therefore, even though the Crystal Dragon clan was a small clan, their status was very special. The current dragon lord of the Crystal Dragon clan was the elder brother of that dragon concubine, the brother-in-law of the Mystic Dragon Emperor. Even though he was not very strong, his status was there. Ordinary dragon clans would naturally not dare to provoke him. However, it was hard to say for the seven-color dragon clan. You stay here, Jean Ling said indifferently. You don't have to go out. If you go out, you will definitely attract unnecessary trouble. We are both dragons. That won't be necessary, right? Wang Feng asked. You don't know the rules of our 10,000 dragons universe. Jean Ling shook her head slightly. If you were an ordinary dragon, you could indeed live happily in the 10,000 dragons universe for the rest of your life. However, you have a special background. In addition, you can sense the 10,000 dragon pearls. Therefore, it is very difficult for you to be ordinary. If you don't want trouble, I suggest that you don't go out. At this point, Jean Ling paused. Of course, if you want to go out, I will not stop you. After saying this, she gently pulled open a curtain from the void. Then, she stepped out and disappeared from the void. Wang Feng sat in the void. Ruins. Judging by the situation of the 10,000 dragon pearls, they're still not in the 10,000 dragons universe. Wang Feng muttered, the bloodline aura of the Crystal Dragon clan is somewhat similar to that of the Frozen In clan. This 1,000 dragons universe, it seems that it is not so simple. Wang Feng suddenly the ancient dragon universe was. He might have inadvertently obtained the key to the disappearance of this civilization that was once invincible in the universe. Then, he slowly opened one of the doors. There are a lot of 10,000 dragon pearls. For what he said, this crystal dragon is extremely vigilant. He's not simple. Wang Feng closed his eyes. During the conversation, the latter did not say much. However, Wang Feng still roughly understood the situation. However, as for strength, this crystal dragon was clearly not strong enough. Not to mention universe-level life forms, heavenly gods of the godly system universe, and false gods. Jinling's strength was at most on par with the Yama Lord that Yin Qingjue had transformed into in the Dark Devil realm. And this was because the Crystal Dragon clan itself had a bit of the frozen in bloodline. Otherwise, given that she didn't even have an origin source, her strength would be even lower. Interesting, in the 10,000 Dragons universe, only the Mystic Dragon Emperor is a threat to me. Wang Feng thought for a while. As for the rest, relatively speaking, it should not be a big problem. However, Wang Feng did not expect the 10,000 Dragons Pearl to be so mysterious in the 10,000 Dragons universe. While he was thinking, suddenly, Jinling, who had left for a few seconds, returned. Wang Feng opened his eyes and looked at Jinling in confusion. You can sense the power of the 10,000 Dragons Pearl? Jinling suddenly asked. Wang Feng nodded slightly. Then can you sense the 10,000 Dragons Pearl in the outside world? Jinling asked indifferently. Although the inside of the carriage is an isolated small world, there are still 7 dragons in it. At this moment, there are dozens of 7-colored dragons outside. Yes, Wang Feng said. Oh, Jinling suddenly revealed a meaningful smile. Can you tell me more about it? Wang Feng pretended to close his eyes and then opened them again to sense for a while. There are a total of 4 strands, Wang Feng said. Among them, 3 strands are concentrated on a dragon. It's not considered powerful. This dragon should have only comprehended less than half of it. With his aptitude, he might only be able to comprehend half of it. As for the other one, it's beside this dragon. It's well-preserved and seems to be new. Wang Fengxian's heart skipped a beat. He actually also sensed the 5-color divine dragon's aura. He roughly understood. Are you sure? Jinling asked again. Of course. Wang Feng knew what this dragon lady wanted to do. However, he had his own plans. In Wang Feng's opinion, these dragons could not fully comprehend the great Tao power within the 10,000 Dragons Pearl. At most, they could only comprehend a little and use this power to change their own bodies. If they wanted to obtain the great Tao power within and control it completely, it would be impossible without the creation Jade Disc. This was because the great Tao power originated from the creation Jade Disc. Since the creation Jade Disc had shattered, the great Tao power naturally fell silent. Normally speaking, it was very difficult to obtain. For example, the 10,000 Dragons Pearl in the Dragon God realm only needed to leak a little of its power to change the entire Dragon God realm. It greatly changed the life forms of those dragons. From this, one could imagine how powerful the power of the Great Path contained within was. All right, Jinling withdrew her smile and walked out. At this moment outside, the 7-colored dragon master smiled as he looked at the dragon carriage. A moment later, Jinling appeared from the dragon carriage. Jinling greets Uncle Kain. Jinling smiled softly and said, It has been a few years since we last met. Uncle, you have become stronger and stronger. Even the dragons following you have become stronger. Ha ha, niece, you must be joking. The 7-colored dragon master waved his hand and said magnanimously, Your crystal race has received His Majesty's favor. You can't compare yourself to our 7 races. When I first met you a few years ago, you were only a 1,000-meter-long infant dragon. You should have obtained the 10,000 Dragons Pearl by now, right? Uncle can't see through your strength. The 7-colored dragon master shook his head in shame. You're not like the younger generation of the 7-colored dragon master. Forget about obtaining the 10,000 Dragons Pearl. We don't even have the chance to look at it. How can that be? Jinling covered her mouth and laughed softly. Doesn't this person beside you have a 10,000 Dragons Pearl? Question mark. The 7-colored dragon master's expression froze when he heard this. He looked at Jinling in shock, and then looked at Long Yunhua beside him. Long Yunhua was stunned for a moment. Then, he shook his head slightly, indicating that he had never revealed anything. Niece, you really know how to joke. The seven-colored dragon master's expression did not change. He smiled faintly and said, "Niece, how long do you plan to stay in the seven-colored nebula? Tell me a time so that I can send some of the dragon race's elites to protect you. Otherwise, it would be bad if you were to get injured in the seven-colored nebula." Jean Ling's expression changed. She knew it. The seven-colored dragon master had stopped her. It was not that simple. He wanted to keep an eye on her. She was passing by the seven-colored nebula in search of the 10,000 dragons' pearl. She was not trying to be secretive. Otherwise, she would not have traveled on a dragon chariot. However, the only person who knew her purpose was her father. After all, if she was too secretive, it would be easier for others to detect her. The seven-colored dragon master must have sensed something for him to stop her. "Old fox. Then, I won't trouble you, uncle." Jean Ling suddenly smiled and said, "You have 10,000 dragons' pearls on you. You still have half of their power. I don't dare to trouble you at this time." She had just finished speaking. The seven-colored dragon master's expression did not change. However, his pupils suddenly shrank. Chapter 1898. Impossible. The seven-colored dragon Lord Kai Yin's first reaction was that it was impossible. No one in the entire clan knew about the secret of the 10,000 dragons' pearl. This was related to one's own strength. How could other dragons know about it so easily? The seven-colored dragon Lord did not even tell the dragons closest to him. How could she know that I've already comprehended half of the 10,000 dragons' pearls? She's so accurate, the seven-colored dragon Lord muttered to himself. The only one who knew about the progress of the 10,000 dragons' pearl was the mystic dragon the Arch. However, the Arch was high and mighty. He would not participate in the actual fights between the various dragon clans in the 10,000 dragons universe. He even encouraged them to fight among themselves. Moreover, one of the 10,000 dragons' pearls was given to him by the Arch. Given the Thearch's status and power, how could he tell this dragon girl from the Crystal Dragon clan? In terms of relationship, Jean Ling was only a side relative of the Crystal Dragon clan. She could be considered the niece of the old Crystal Dragon King. The Crystal Dragon concubine was not related to Jean Ling at all. How could the situation of his 10,000 dragons pearl be leaked? The seven-colored dragon Lord looked at Jean Ling, who was smiling calmly. It did not seem like she was guessing. Although this little girl Jean Ling is barely the niece of that old Crystal Dragon King, she is indeed the one with the most outstanding talent in the Crystal Dragon tribe. In the future, she should be able to climb up to the position of Dragon King of that dragon thing. Could it be that she has other factions guiding her from behind? The seven-colored dragon Lord was secretly on guard. He sensed a dragon on the Golden Dragon planet. Usually it was just passing by. It was not a big deal. He only needed to report it at the Golden Dragon planet. However, it was different if it was Jean Ling. This girl was very famous in the Crystal Dragon clan. She was also seen as the successor of the old Crystal Dragon King. If she had suddenly come to the Golden Dragon planet for fun, it would be fine. His Golden Dragon planet was one of the few great planets in the seven-colored galaxy. A dragon could definitely play on it for a few years. However, the seven-colored dragon Lord knew that with Jean Ling's character, she was definitely not here for fun. She must have a very important motive. Otherwise, she would not have passed by his Golden Dragon planet. He guessed that it was most likely related to the 10,000 dragons pearl. Therefore, just in case, he might as well use this as an excuse to trap her here. Then, he would use both hard and soft tactics to interrogate them. No matter what, he had to get a share of the loot. But now, with just a few words from Jean Ling, he was thrown into disarray. Even his aura was gradually being taken over by his opponent. "Niece, you're amazing," the seven-colored dragon Lord said with a smile. "The last time I saw the old Dragon King was at the Coiling Dragon Grand meeting 100 years ago. However, Uncle never expected that niece would be so familiar with me, the seven-colored dragon Lord." "Of course I have to be familiar with my friends," Jean Ling said with a smile that was neither servile nor overbearing. "However, only I, your niece, know about this matter. This golden eternal dragon star, is the great star of the seven colors galaxy. Who knows how many dragons would spend their days on this golden eternal dragon star, indulging themselves in a drunken stupor. Niece, I have a shortcoming. When I go crazy, I get carried away easily. At that time, all kinds of nonsense might be leaked. Therefore, niece will not stay on Uncle Cyan's golden eternal dragon star. What do you think? Hearing this, the seven-colored dragon lord smiled and said, since that's the case, that's fine too. There are many fun places in my seven colors nebula. If you want to play, you can tell these dragons at any time. With your uncle's orders, you can do whatever you want in the seven colors nebula. Jinling nodded slightly. In that case, niece will thank uncle for his kind intentions. I'll take my leave first. With that, she walked back into the dragon carriage. She heaved a sigh of relief. Cyan Dragon Lord's reputation for being cautious is well-deserved. However, I didn't expect that fellow to be telling the truth. Jinling was even more shocked. She had said those words to intimidate the seven-colored Dragon Lord. However, she had not actually lowered her guard. However, she did not expect it to be true. The biggest secret of the 10,000 Dragons Pearl was the seven-colored Dragon Lord's identity and status. After being exposed by her in an instant, the seven-colored Dragon Lord revealed a shocked expression and lost his composure for a moment. Even if it was only for a moment, it was still exposed. When I was exposed by that fellow, I lost my composure even more. Jinling shook her head secretly. Speaking of which, the seven-colored Dragon Lord had actually comprehended more than half of the 3 Dragon Lord pearls. No wonder he was so powerful. Moreover, the person following him should be a prodigy of the seven-colored dragon tribe. However, the seven-colored Dragon Lord was really powerful. He could directly bestow the 10,000 Dragons Pearl to the younger generation of the Dragon Tribe prodigies. With Cyan's cautiousness, although she let me go, I'm afraid it won't be so easy to escape from the seven-colored Dragon Tribe. Jinling entered the small world in the dragon carriage and sighed softly in her heart. Since she was passing by the Seven Colors Nebula, she had expected that she would be discovered. However, Jinling did not have the immortal Dao. The seven-colored Dragon Lord was so sharp. He actually wanted to intercept her. He must have sensed something. Wang Feng raised his head and looked at Jinling, who had returned. He asked, "How's the situation?" He pretended to ask. In reality, he had complete control of the situation outside. After all, he had come to the 10,000 Dragons universe for the 10,000 Dragons Pearl. Wang Fengxian had naturally expected that the Dragon Tribe would be able to comprehend and use the power of the Great Path in the 10,000 Dragons Pearl. However, that was definitely only a small part of it. Most of the 10,000 Dragons Pearl should still be in a sealed state. At most, it would leak out a bit of its power, just like the 10,000 Dragons Pearl in the Dragon God realm. Therefore, Wang Feng was not in a hurry and directly took the 10,000 Dragons Pearl from the Dragon Tribe. The power of the Great Path in the Creation Jade Disc was extremely vast. That 10,000 Dragons Pearl was only barely enough to activate the Creation Jade Disc. If he wanted to completely merge it and make the Creation Jade Disc absorb more power of the Great Path, 1 or 2 10,000 Dragons Pearls would not be enough. I barely passed. Jinling frowned slightly. That seven-colored Dragon Lord must have sensed something when he intercepted me. If he knows about the ruins, I'm afraid it will be very difficult for me to monopolize the 10,000 Dragons Pearl with my strength. In fact, she would not be able to obtain anything. Where are the ruins? Wang Feng asked. Jinling looked at Wang Fengxian, and her heart skipped a beat. You are also very interested in the 10,000 Dragons Pearl, Jinling suddenly said. How about this? You go to the ruins with me. As a reward, if you find the 10,000 Dragons Pearl, I will give you one. You can sense the power of the 10,000 Dragons Pearl, so it will be easier for you to find it in the ruins. What do you think? If you are unwilling, I will put you in a safe place on the Dragon Star. You are free to do whatever you want. Chapter 1899. She said that out of helplessness. To be honest, being able to sense the 10,000 Dragons Pearl was a very unique ability. In the 10,000 Dragons universe, there were such dragons. However, those dragons usually only served the mystic dragon emperor. Moreover, their senses were based on experience and the assistance of various artifacts. Only then could they sense the approximate location of the 10,000 Dragons Pearl. It might not be accurate. However, this mysterious dragon could not only sense the 10,000 Dragons Pearl, but she could also sense the power situation inside the pearl. It was indeed unique. Sure, Wang Feng smiled. It was possible. However, if what this dragon lady said was true, and there were many 10,000 Dragons Pearls in the relic, it would not be just one. He had entered the 10,000 Dragons universe. Without disturbing the mystic dragon emperor, he would naturally seize as many 10,000 Dragons Pearls as possible. Anyway, he was only here temporarily to take a look at the situation. He would not be in the 10,000 Dragons universe for long. If not for Mo Tiance, Wang Feng would not have planned to come at this time. If that is the case, I will tell you the general situation. Jean Ling nodded slightly. It was good that he did not reject. She would be surprised if he rejected. Since he was so mysterious, she had to be on guard. However, she still had to tell him the situation. After talking for a while, Wang Feng finally understood. He also roughly understood the situation in the 10,000 Dragons universe. Jean Ling knew about the relic. It was not ordinary. The mystic dragon emperor had a very favored princess of the dragon race under his command. Because this dragon princess had a bloodline very close to the mystic dragon emperor's. Hence, she was highly valued by the mystic dragon emperor. Naturally, this dragon princess had a very high status. Coincidentally, the Dragon Clan's princess had run into Jean Ling when she returned from outside. At that time, the dragon princess was being chased by a group of extraterrestrial beings. In an emergency situation, she fought with the princess and forged a deep friendship. Later, this dragon princess stayed in the crystal dragon race for a long time, and their friendship deepened. When this dragon princess was discovered to have the bloodline of the mystic dragon emperor, the mystic dragon emperor was alerted and personally came out to check. So, the news of the ruins was told to you by the dragon princess? Wang Feng was rather surprised. Yes. Jean Ling nodded. Why would she tell you such important information? Wang Feng asked in surprise. The 10,000 Dragon Pearl is so precious. Why wouldn't she enjoy it for herself? Because she doesn't need the 10,000 Dragon Pearl. Jean Ling said indifferently. Are you trying to say that the ruin is not simple and is very likely to be very dangerous? So she did not enjoy it alone and instead wanted me to go and use me as an experiment? Wang Feng did not answer. This dragoness was very smart. Clearly, she had thought of this. First of all, she already told me that the ruins are very dangerous, Jean Ling continued. Furthermore, I might not be the only one entering. Many people knew about this. Apart from the myriad dragon pearl, there are other treasures inside as well. Wang Feng pondered for a moment. As for me, I need the myriad dragon pearl. Danger is inevitable. Even if it's a trap, if we tell the entire 10,000 dragons cosmos about it, any dragon master will go there without hesitation. Even if there's a 1 in 10,000 chance of obtaining the 10,000 dragons pearl, it's still not enough. None of the dragons of the myriad dragons universe will give up. Hearing this, Wang Feng naturally did not refute. That dragon princess. When Wang Feng said this, he paused for a few seconds. What? You're interested in the dragon princess as well? Jean Ling's gaze was somewhat strange. I'm just curious. Wang Feng shook his head slightly. This kind of information, where did she come from? The location of the ruin is no longer within the 10,000 dragons cosmos. It's equivalent to entering another cosmos. Entering another cosmos should not be as safe as the 10,000 dragons cosmos. As you said, the 7-color dragon master you faced just now only wanted to trap you and take a share of the loot. However, if it's a life form from another cosmos, it might want your life. Jean Ling smiled slightly and said, Don't worry. Although the location of the ruin is in another cosmos, it is very unique. However, This region was very unique. It did not belong to any universe. Instead, it is in a special space. To be precise, it belongs to the primal chaos gap where the various cosmoses alternate. Wang Feng knew about this primal chaos gap. Different cosmoses were not adjacent to each other. However, in the multivariate cosmoses, they were made up of countless cosmoses. These cosmoses were not adjacent to each other. Between them was the primal chaos gap that separated time and space. It was an unknown region of the multivariate cosmos. No one knew what they would encounter in there. In there, all the rules were different. After saying so much, Wang Fengxin's heart suddenly moved. I think that before you enter the will relic in this primal chaos gap, you might already be gone. Question mark. Jinling frowned slightly. What do you mean? What I mean is, Wang Feng pointed outside. There are many dragons following behind your dragon chariot. They chatted for a while. However, during this short period of time, the dragon chariot was extremely fast. It had already left the range of Jin Hung Long's dragon star. It's the seven-colored dragon race. Jin Ling suddenly stood up. Her eyes were cold. It seems that they are really persistent. After saying that, Jin Ling looked at Wang Feng. You are seriously injured. How can you still sense these dragons? This was the second time. My injuries are almost healed, Wang Feng said slowly. However, these seven-colored dragons you mentioned are only following behind you. They have been following you for a long time. A long time? Jin Ling murmured. It seems that they started when I left Jin Hung Long's dragon star. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Haven't you already guessed it? Wang Feng said with a smile. Moreover, they're only following you. It seems that they do not intend to fight with you. Clearly, they want to know the direction you're heading in. Jin Ling sneered. I knew this would happen. However, it doesn't matter. Once we leave Rainbow Galaxy, we will no longer be in their territory. That's right, Wang Feng said meaningfully. Now that it's not their territory, they can do whatever they want, especially when you leave the 10,000 Dragons cosmos. Jinling knew what Wang Feng meant. However, her expression did not change. She did not seem to be afraid. You don't seem to be afraid? Wang Feng asked. When I passed by Rainbow Galaxy, I thought about this problem. A similarly profound smile appeared on Jinling's face. I think that if the seven-color dragon tribe really wants to tail me, then... That's right. Then, what will happen then? They can't blame anyone. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.